Good evening and welcome back to the day 2 of this practice to pass session. This is day 2 of the audit and assurance practice to pass webinar for September 2021 exam. Yesterday we covered audit risk and we tried to emphasize the areas which are causing trouble to students and which are creating a problem for the students, and those particular areas which are the common reasons of failures. Okay, let's quickly recall what we studied yesterday and then let's proceed for the today's agenda. Okay, yesterday I told all of you that there is a very tricky exam format for this one. In the section A we'll be having 3 OTQs and in the section B we'll be having 3 long questions. So it means the 70 marks paper is dependent upon your typing speed, it is dependent upon your writing capabilities, it is dependent upon your power of expression. The course content can be divided into 7 areas. There are 3 major areas, 4 minor areas. The major areas are risk, controls and procedures. Yesterday we covered risk. Today's agenda is controls. As far as the minor areas are concerned, we have allocated a complete 5th day for the minor areas. Okay, that was the most important part of the yesterday's session. Why students around the globe fail in audit and assurance exam, why the failure rate is on the higher side. And let me be very honest with you with respect to the failure rate. If the global failure rate is 60%, which means the passing rate is 40%, for instance. So in this part of the world, I'm talking about the subcontinent, trust me, the failure rate will be at least 70 or 75%, which means the passing rate will be around 20, 25 or hardly 30%. So if the global passing rate is 40%, in the subcontinent the passing rate would be around 30%. Why? Because we have got too many problems, and those problems are: we are not that good when it comes to typing speed, we are not that good with IT skills, we do not create good enough exam practice, we do not create good enough exam pressure on ourselves before the exam. Okay, and why students fail in audit and assurance? Because in the section A, students tend to score very low marks or very below average marks. They do not tend to perform well when it comes to section A, scoring nothing or below average marks when it comes to section B, specifically the knowledge based part of the section B. Second last reason of the failure is the exam technique is a major problem for most of the students, but we tried to address the exam technique of the topic number 1. I really hope so that you are now confident with respect to audit risk, and at the end of today's session you will be confident with respect to the major topic number 2, which is internal controls, which is my agenda for the day. Last reason is that students tend to ignore the minor areas during their preparation. We are not going to ignore minor areas, we are going to invest complete 5th day on the minor areas. Okay, day 1 was for risk, we are done with it. Day 2 is for internal controls. I think it's time to go to the internal controls. Okay, let's start the topic number 2, the major topic number 2. And the major topic number 2 is called internal control systems. First of all, you have to realize how many internal control systems are in the syllabus. There are 6 internal control systems in the AA course content. Number 1, sales system, and the opposite of sales system is purchase system. Then highly interrelated with sales and purchase system, it's called inventory system. Then the payroll system, then the non-current asset system. Last but not the least, we have got bank and cash system. If a student is comfortable with any one system, any one, sales, purchase, any one system, I'm super sure if a student has got common sense, if a student is above average or at least an average student, which all of you are, a student can prepare all the systems on its own. Any given student needs assistance in one particular system. Once you have understood one system from a tutor, from a senior, or from anyone, you are good to go in all other systems. Okay, what is internal control system? There are 6 internal control systems in the syllabus, but the question is, what are internal control systems? Internal control systems are not tangible systems. They are actually the policies and procedures which are designed by the management in order to make sure that the control objectives or the organization's objectives are achieved. So what is an internal control system? It's a set of rules, it's a set of policies and procedures. And why internal control systems are designed by the management? Just to make sure that frauds are prevented, errors are prevented, and frauds and errors are timely identified. So that's the objective of internal control system. Okay, let's go to the exam requirements. Unlike the risk, the last topic, the yesterday's topic, there are many different types of requirements we have. When it comes to the audit risk topic, which we covered yesterday, there is only one requirement, that is describe audit risk and provide the auditor's response. But when it comes to internal control systems, there is a variety of exam requirements. The first requirement could be list 3 or 4 control objectives of, let's say, sales system. So if an organization has designed and implemented sales system, why they have designed a sales system? If an organization has designed and implemented purchase system, why they have designed purchase system? So the first possible requirement is list 3 or 4 control objectives. I believe it's a knowledge based requirement because this particular requirement has got nothing to do with the scenario of the question. This particular requirement has got nothing to do with the question itself. This is common sense. So let's talk about, let's say, sales system. Why would we design sales system? Because we want to make sure that only genuine customers are entertained. We would design sales system because we want to make sure that we only accept those orders which we can fulfill on a timely basis. We want to have a sales system because we want to make sure that correct quantities and correct quality of goods are dispatched. What could be the objectives of purchase system? We want to make sure that only genuine purchases which are really needed by the organization are purchased. We want to make sure that we are going to purchase at an appropriate price and with a reasonable quality. We want to make sure that only necessary goods are purchased. We don't wish to face a stock out situation. We don't want to face a situation in which we have got excessive stock at our disposal. So what could be the control objectives of payroll system? The objectives of the payroll system could be that we want to make sure that correct wages are paid to the employees. Only genuine employees are paid, no ghost employee. We want to make sure that we are only going to pay for the amount of hours or the employees have worked. So we don't wish to pay extra. We don't wish to pay less than the amount we need to pay. So these are the control objectives. This is common sense and this is knowledge based. Every system has got few objectives and those objectives are knowledge based. You can think of objectives for any particular system. Let's say, what could be the control objectives of a bank and cash system? We want to make sure that the cash is deposited in the bank on a regular basis. We want to make sure if we have got any petty cash around ourselves, that is well secured and well protected. The room or the premises or the location in which we are going to keep a certain amount of cash should be well protected and no unauthorized individual should be allowed to enter that place. So these are the objectives and you need to prepare the control objectives of all these 6 systems. So if somebody has just joined us, we have just started internal control system, which is our major topic number 2 in our syllabus of AA. we have got 6 internal control systems, and for these 6 internal control systems, an examiner could ask these 5 types of requirements. Out of these 5 exam requirements, the first exam requirement is a knowledge based exam requirement. Why I'm saying that? Because the first exam requirement has got nothing to do with the scenario. So the first exam requirement could be that you need to express the control objectives of any particular system. Let's say it's sales system, purchase system. So as a student, what should be your target for the day? At the end of the webinar, before the next session of the webinar, before tomorrow's session, you need to prepare at least 4 control objectives of sales system, 4 control objectives of purchase, and similarly for inventory, payroll, non-current assets, and bank and cash. If you are going to prepare 3 to 4 control objectives for all these 6 systems, you are absolutely well prepared for this first exam requirement, which is more of a knowledge based rather than application based. Is this clear? The first exam requirement out of the 5 exam requirements, is this clear to everyone? Can I have a confirmation on that? Okay, that's great. Okay, Nabil is asking, can you repeat sales objectives one more? Why not? Okay, there is an organization, let's say called Ahmed Company, and they have designed and implemented sales system. Now the question is whether the sales system is a tangible system or an intangible system. It's an intangible system because a system is made up of policies and procedures, rules and regulations, which need to be followed by each and every one of us involved in the sales or involved in the organization. Now, why those policies and procedures or rules and regulations have been designed? Just to make sure that we only deal with authorized customers. We only wish to deal with customers having good enough credit rating. We don't wish to face bad debts, right? We only want to make sure that we only acknowledge those orders from customers which we can fulfill on a timely basis. Once we are going to dispatch certain quantities, we want to make sure that we are going to dispatch on a timely basis. We want to make sure that correct quantities are dispatched. I don't want to face this hard music that I have dispatched the order of A to B and B to A. So these are the objectives of sales system, and using this common sense, obviously you can create the objectives of the purchase system and the payroll system and the inventory system and so on. What could be the control objectives of inventory system? I want to make sure that the inventory level should be kept at an optimum level. I don't want to have too much inventory in the warehouse, because if I'm going to have too much inventory, that could be stolen, that could be deteriorated, outdated, unfashionable, damaged. I don't wish to have a very nominal level of inventory or a very below nominal level of inventory, because that could lead problems in the production department, that could lead to stock out situation, that could delay the production, and as a result customer could be upset. So these are the objectives of all the system. Now you have got 2 options, dear students. You have got 2 options. The first option is that you got to back up your common sense and you got to assume that, come on, these control objectives are too easy. These control objectives are too easy, and you don't wish to prepare them. You can write the control objectives of the sales, purchase, inventory, payroll, non-current assets, bank and cash using your common sense. So that's the first strategy. But I believe the second strategy is a far superior one. And if you want to play safe, what should you do? You got to open up your laptop and you got to open up your study text and you got to search the control objectives out of your book. There will be many control objectives of the sales, purchase, inventory, payroll, non-current asset, bank and cash. Write down or type 4 control objectives for each and every one of it. If you are going to type all of them, I think automatically you are going to keep them in your mind for a longer period of time, and as a result you are well prepared for this first exam requirement. Is this clear? Okay, if there is any question, let me quickly address before I go on to the exam requirement 2. Jesse is asking what strategy can I use to catch up as I'm little behind in the syllabus coverage. Jesse, my recommendation would be you got to ignore audit risk for now. Ignore audit risk because we are done with audit risk. Day one is gone. Don't think about audit risk now. The day 2 and the day 3, 4, 5 has got nothing to do with audit risk. So stay focused with the day 2 and the day 3. Once you are done with the day 5, then on the 6th day, obviously, which is not a webinar day, you got to cover audit risk. Automatically things will be crystal clear for you, I'm sure. I hope it sounds good, Jesse. Sir Fatma is asking what about the 2 OTQs. Definitely we are going to catch up those 2 OTQs, which is an obligation which I've created for myself, and we are going to cover more OTQs relevant to internal control systems. We will catch that up, sir. Thank you for the reminder. Yes, there is a WhatsApp group and you will be communicated. Business related purchases are made. Yes, Khalil Rahman, you are absolutely right. One of the objective of the purchase system could be that only those purchases are made which are business related. So just imagine you are an organization. What do you want? What do you want? Whether the purchases should be business related, genuine purchases, or fake purchases, or the purchasing manager is making his household items, his personal things as a and making it look like that these are business purchases. Obviously business related purchases should be made. That's an objective of the purchase system. You're absolutely right. Okay. Thank you. Good evening. No, Abdullah, we haven't discussed anything as such. Mohammed Anis, you will be you'll get the invitation, don't worry. So okay, Mohammad Adil is saying, sir, section A practice yesterday was pretty helpful, even though we just did one. Sir, looking forward for more section A practice. I cannot agree more on that. You are absolutely right. I believe that the OTQ we did yesterday was an eye opener. I think we all realize how critical those OTQs are. Each and every requirement, each and every statement, whether it is true or false, creates a magic on its own. It has got a whole concept on its own. So you are absolutely right. If we have to make a compromise on anything, that could be exam practice or a long question, but we are not going to make any compromises on OTQs. All of you are absolutely right. Okay, Kalevani is asking where to get more questions on OTQs. There are 2 huge resources for you. Number 1, Kaplan kit. Number 2, BPP kit. That's it. Kaplan kit and BPP kit. Once you are done with Kaplan kit and BPP kit, at the end of the webinar, at the end of the 5th day, I will share a document with all of you in which I have got few selected questions, and I will share those questions with you. Those questions are basically extracted from examiner's report, so they are very important OTQs. I will share that particular file with you, don't worry. But Kaplan and BPP kit is good enough. Okay, let's continue. I think we are done with the first requirement. Let's continue with the main agenda. Okay, let's go to the second requirement. What's the second possible requirement when it comes to exam? Examiner is going to come up with a system, whether it is sales system, purchase system, payroll system, XYZ, any system. By the way, an examiner could come up with a story having multiple systems in it. A bit of sales system, a bit of purchase system, a bit of payroll system. So let's not confuse ourselves what system will be tested. Examiner is going to present system or systems. Now once as a student you are supposed to read that particular system. As a student you are supposed to read everything about it. Once you have understood and you have read the whole system, the examiner could ask you to explain 5, 6, 7 or 8 deficiencies in the company's system. Now what do I mean by deficiencies? Deficiency means the weakness in the system. So once you are going to read the question, once you are going to read the system, you will realize that the system is not that good. There are flaws and loopholes in the system. And then what you are going to do, you are going to identify those deficiencies from the question, and then you got to explain those deficiencies. This second exam requirement, identify and explain either 5, 6, 7 or 8 deficiencies. This will give you 1 mark per deficiency. The identification of the deficiency will give you half mark, and the explanation of the deficiency will give you another half mark. Now the burning question is the identification of deficiency, which is going to give us half mark. How I'm going to identify the deficiency? The simple answer to this question is we are going to identify the deficiency from the question itself. So as far as the identification of the deficiency is concerned, we are going to identify the deficiency from the question. We are going to copy that deficiency from the question. We are going to paste it in the answer platform, and then we are going to explain that deficiency. So the second requirement could be in the exam, and it is not a knowledge based, it's an application based question. We are going to read the question, we are going to read the sales system, we are going to read the purchase system or any XYZ system, and we have to identify the deficiencies, and then we have to explain those deficiencies. How does that sound? I hope the second exam requirement is also clear. Once you have identified and explained 5, 6, 7 or 8 deficiencies in the company system, the examiner is going to ask you another requirement relevant to the this deficiency requirement. Examiner is going to ask you to provide recommendations to address those deficiencies. Now what do I mean by provide recommendations to address those deficiencies? See, if your client's sales system has got flaws, and as an auditor you have identified that particular flaw and you have explained that flaw as well, you should come up with a solution. And what do I mean by solution? Solution means you need to recommend something which is going to overcome that deficiency. So once you have identified and explained deficiencies in the company system, basically you have identified the poor control systems. But in the exam requirement 3, you have to provide recommendations to address deficiencies, and the third requirement means you have to recommend good controls. You have to suggest how to overcome that deficiency. So this is these two requirements, exam requirement 2 and exam requirement 3. Generally speaking, examiner tests these two as a pair. Examiner is going to come up with a system. As a student, you are going to read that particular story. You are going to identify a few deficiencies from the question and you have to explain them. I will teach you how to identify. I will teach you how to explain. The identification will give you half mark. The explanation will give you another half mark. Then you have to recommend, or you need to come up with good controls in order to overcome those deficiencies. So this exam requirement 2 and this exam requirement 3, they come up as a pair. Okay. An exam question could be designed like this. Now please realize the story all over again. Identify and explain, let's say 5 deficiencies in the system. How many marks you are going to get for that? 5 marks. Half mark for the five identification, half mark for the explanation. Overall you are going to get 5 marks if you have explained 5 deficiencies. Then the examiner is going to say that provide recommendations to address those deficiencies. It means you have to come up with good controls in order to overcome those deficiencies. What are you going to recommend? You are going to recommend a good control in order to overcome those deficiencies. Now another requirement could be, once you have recommended a good control, examiner might ask you if as an auditor you have to test those controls which you have recommended. How are you going to test them? So the 5th exam requirement, for now I'm skipping the exam requirement number 4. With 2nd, 3rd, there could be a 5th requirement. Overall the 3rd requirement, describe a test of control the auditor should perform. What is meant by a test of control? Test of control means an auditor's action through which an auditor wants to test whether the control which he or she recommended is implemented or is working effectively. So describe a test of control means I want to evaluate whether the controls are now operating effectively or not. So please imagine there is an exam question in front of you. You have to identify and explain 5 deficiencies that will give you 5 marks. You have recommended good controls in order to overcome those deficiencies that will give you another 5 marks. Now you have to test those recommendations. Now you have to come up with test of control. What do I mean by test of control? The control which you recommended, now you have to test whether that control is operating effectively or not. So that's the exam requirement number 5. How many marks you are going to get for 5 tests of controls? Another 5 marks. So it means identification and explanation of 5 deficiencies, or per deficiency 1 mark, per recommendation 1 mark, per test of control 1 mark. Is this clear? This is how the examiner could come up with an exam question. Is this clear? Can I have a confirmation? Okay, Mr. Hussain is asking, how can I improve the reason of deficiencies and recommendation? Please hang on for next 30 minutes. I hope this question will be answered automatically. Okay, Mr. Ashwin is saying, sir, key control, there is a new name, right? As per the syllabus change. As per the syllabus, the changes in the syllabus, we are going to discuss all those changes on the day 5. The name of the key control could be anything. Examiner usually says what controls as an auditor you are going to seek reliance on. It's one and the same thing. If what kind of controls are there in the system on which an auditor can place reliance on, what does that mean? An auditor is going to place reliance on a particular control which seems to be promising, right? So it's one and the same thing. Don't worry about it. Okay, test of control is something that creates problem. We'll address that. Okay, please explain test of controls again. I'll explain. Recommendation is given from auditor's point of view, right? Recommendation is given from auditor's point of view. See, recommendation is something which the management should have implemented, but they haven't. So hold on, I'll answer that. Sir, are key controls and strengths same? Absolutely right. Okay, let me go back to the 4th requirement because most of you are wondering about the 4th requirement. Okay, give me a second. Hold. Okay, now comes the 4th and the last possible exam requirement. Examiner could come up with a story, again with a system. An examiner is going to ask you to explain 5 key controls. Alternative word could be used by examiner, explain 5 good controls. Examiner could use the wording such as explain the controls on which as an auditor you might want to place reliance on. What kind of controls am I going to place reliance on? Obviously the good controls, the positive controls, the key controls, the controls which looks promising on paper. Now identify and explain 5 key controls. What's the marking scheme of it? The identification of a key or a good control gives us half mark, and we are going to copy it from the question. No creative writing. And then we are going to explain it just like we explained the deficiency, and we are going to get another half mark. So basically exam requirement 2 and exam requirement 4 are opposite of each other. Please let's ignore exam requirement 1 because it's a knowledge based requirement. Let's focus on 2, 3, 4, 5. Now please tell me, are you all clear with this statement that exam requirement 2 and exam requirement 4 are opposite of each other. Are you clear with this thing? Mars, yes, report format can be tested. I'll tell you at the end of the day. Don't worry. You got to remind me after an hour or so, if you can, please. Okay, Mr. Ahmed is saying our teacher told us to write in your own words when writing the good control. Ahmed, the thing is, your teacher must be right. I don't disagree with him. But what I'm suggesting is that in order to identify a good or a key control, do not use your own words. Just get it copied from the question and straight away post it on your answer platform. Okay, that is my recommendation. In order to explain that key control, obviously you need to use your own words. Similarly, in order to explain a poor control, you need to use your own words. Ahmed, how does that sound? Is this clear? Okay, okay. Okay, one more thing. Identify and explain 5 deficiencies. If the examiner is going to ask you for deficiencies, definitely with the requirement number 2, definitely with the requirement number 2, examiner is going to ask requirement number 3. It's 100% sure shot. If examiner is asking you to explain the deficiencies, examiner is also going to ask you to come up with recommendations, come up with a solution. Okay, and there is a possibility that examiner might ask you to explain the deficiencies, then come up with recommendations, and then tell me how are you going to test those controls. So 2 and 3 could be tested, 2, 3 and 5 could be tested. Imagine in your brain, 2 and 3 could be tested, 2, 3 and 5 could be tested. Now one last combination. Examiner might ask you to explain 5, 6, 7, 8 key controls. Once the examiner is asking you to explain 5 key controls, examiner is not going to ask you for recommendations. So along with 4, 3 cannot be tested, because if in the system there are good controls, key controls, what you are going to recommend? Nothing. They are already good controls. So along with 4, the examiner could ask you to test those key controls. So examiner could test 2 and 3, examiner could test 2, 3 and 5, and last but not the least, examiner could test 4 and 5. Is this clear? The possible exam requirements: 2, 3, 2, 3, 5, and last option could be 4 and 5. That's it. No more combinations. No more combinations. Now let's go to the main event. You should be prepared for all possible requirements, just as I told you earlier. Exam requirement number 1 is a knowledge based requirement, and it is not frequently tested. But as a student, you got to prepare 4 control objectives of all 6 systems tonight. Exam requirement 2 and 3, that is the identification and explanation of deficiency and the recommendation. It is almost tested on 100% occasions. It will be examined in every XYZ sitting, whether it is September 2021 or whether it was June 2021. So get ready, 2 and 3 will be tested. What about 2, 3 and 5? Yes, most probably examiner could ask you to explain the deficiencies, then come up with the recommendations, which is exam requirement 3, and the examiner might ask you to test those controls which you have recommended. So 2, 3 and 5 is a probability as well. But in the recent exam papers, there is a new trend, and that new trend is about identify and explain 5 key controls and then come up with a test of control. So this new combination of 4 and 5 is quite fashionable nowadays, and we are going to go through all of them. Don't worry. Okay, last 10 minutes before we go on to a past paper question, let's concentrate because this is tricky. What's the marking scheme? The identification of deficiency gives us half mark, and I'm going to repeat my narrative again, that we will try to identify the deficiency from the question itself. We will try to copy the deficiency from the question itself. I don't wish to create my own terminologies. I don't wish to create my own wording. I don't wish to type this thing. I want to copy it from the question itself. So identification of deficiency will give us half mark, and this half mark is already available in the question. The only skill which we need to learn is how to identify the deficiency in the question. Once as a student you have identified the deficiency, all you need is to copy it on your answer platform. Okay, what's the marking scheme for explanation? Once you have identified the deficiency, you will get half mark, and once you are going to explain that deficiency, you are going to get another half mark. I will be teaching how to identify, I will be teaching how to explain. For now I'm just focusing on marking scheme. What about recommendation? A recommendation means a good control which an auditor is going to suggest. One recommendation means 1 mark. So if you are going to open up a past paper or your exam kit, and you might realize that the answer is suggesting 3 recommendations per weakness, or 2 recommendations, or 4 recommendations, don't bother writing all of them. You need to understand all of them, but on the exam day all you need is 1 solid recommendation. That's it. So the marking scheme for recommendation is 1 mark per word per recommendation. What's the marking scheme for test of control? Again, 1 test of control means 1 mark. So if there are couple of or 3 or 4 tests of controls in the suggested answer, these are for your knowledge. On the exam day, all you need is 1 test of control in order to score 1 mark. Okay, as I said, the exam requirement number 2 and 5 are opposite to each other, and that is why their marking scheme is copy paste. The identification of deficiency half mark, the identification of key control will give you half mark. Identification of key control half mark, and again the identification of key control would be from the question itself, and the explanation of key control will give another half mark. Are you all clear with the marking scheme? Okay, are you all clear with the marking scheme? If somebody is unable to join the group using the WhatsApp group link, you can text me up and I'll share the link with you personally. Okay, don't worry. Don't bother about the WhatsApp group for now. We have got far important things to handle. Okay, we are done with the marking scheme. Let's go to the main thing, which is how to identify deficiency, how to explain the deficiency, how to write recommendation, how to come up with a test of control, how to identify key control. Now we need to learn these 6 boxes. We need to learn how to identify deficiency. We need to learn how to explain the deficiency. So let's go to the first thing, how to identify deficiency. And what's the marking scheme for that? Half mark per deficiency identified. How to identify deficiency? The examiner is going to come up with a question about sales system, purchase system, X system, Y system, any system, or multiple systems. How to identify deficiency? The first methodology of identifying deficiency is look for lack of segregation of duties. What do I mean by lack of segregation of duty, or what do I mean by weak segregation of duty? If there is a complete chain of events or sequence of activities highly interrelated are performed by one single individual, that particular individual could commit a fraud or an error. But because of the fact that that particular individual is involved in everything, that particular individual's committed fraud or error will not be identified, and this is a deficiency in the system. So if there is weak segregation of duties, or if there is lack of segregation of duty, if the duties are not divided or broken down into different individuals, this is considered as a deficiency. And if you are going to identify any such deficiency from the question, you will going to get half mark for the identification. How to identify deficiency? Technique number 2. if an individual is involved in a particular activity, and that particular activity is a very sensitive one, it requires huge amount of skills and experience, but that individual which is involved in that particular activity is not that senior, apparently he is not that competent, apparently he is not having that much of experience, you are going to highlight this as a deficiency. For example, I am a purchasing clerk and I am involved in the purchases and authorization of non-current assets. So considering I'm a purchasing clerk, I don't think so that I am good enough, experienced enough, senior enough to be involved in the authorization and procurement of such huge things such as non-current assets. So seniority of staff is one deficiency which is very common among the past papers. Okay, if I am going to perform an activity, for example, I am inputting the payroll cost into the system and my activity is not authorized or nobody reviews my work, these are also signs of deficiencies. So if I am going to perform an activity, somebody should review my work. If I am going to purchase raw materials, somebody should authorize my purchases, someone senior than me. If I'm a purchasing manager and I'm involved in the purchases of non-current assets, what do you think? Should I be on my own or should the purchasing director be involved in the authorization? I think someone senior should authorize my purchases. For everyone, there should be someone senior who is authorizing things. So if there is no indication of authorization, you are going to consider it as a deficiency. If I am performing certain activities and there is no check and balance on my work, there is no evidence of review of my work, you are going to consider it as a deficiency. Okay, number 5th, if I am going to perform an activity manually, although that activity could have been transformed into an automated activity. For example, I am calculating the gross pay and the net pay manually for each and every employee, although this could have been allocated to a software, this could have been used through clock card using an automated software which might have calculated the gross pay and the net pay on its own. So in that case, if an activity is performed manually, though that activity could have been performed automatically, you are going to treat it or you are going to highlight it as a deficiency. Number 6, sometimes the examiner is going to gift you a deficiency by itself, by himself. How come? The examiner might say the bank, the cash is deposited in the bank on a daily basis, but there is no bank reconciliation performed. Or the examiner is going to say when the goods are received, they are checked for quantity, but they are not evaluated for the with respect to quality. When the goods are received, they are checked for the quantity, but they are not evaluated for the quality. So the word no or not might be indicating a deficiency. If the goods received are not evaluated with respect to quality, there is a huge possibility or there is a risk that we might accept goods which are inferior in quality, and as a result they are going to create problems in the production process. If bank reconciliation is not performed on a monthly basis, there is a possibility that some of the frauds or errors may go undetected for a very long period of time, and that is going to cost losses to the company. So look out for the words no or not in the question. Last methodology or last way of identifying deficiency is look for the documentational issues. For example, your purchase orders, your sales invoices should be sequentially pre-numbered. Your purchase orders should be authorized. Your let's say your documents should have evidence of the review performed by someone senior. So signatures, sequential pre-numbered, these are all documentational issues. If your sales orders or your purchase orders are not sequentially pre-numbered, what happens then? The company or the purchasing department won't be able to perform a sequential review. And if they won't be able to perform the sequential review, they won't be able to identify which order is missing. And if they won't be able to identify which order is missing, Some of the orders might be delayed, and as a result production process might be delayed, customers might get upset, and so on. So this is how you are going to identify deficiency. Is this clear to everyone, how to identify deficiency? If there is any question relevant to that, please go on. Okay, Mars is asking, can you explain again that manual versus automated thing? Mars, if for example your payroll calculations are performed by Mr. Ahmed, although those payroll calculations could have been performed by a software, what do you think, where the chances of fraud and errors lies, in the through manual or through software? I think when it comes to manual, Ahmed might commit a fraud, Ahmed might commit an error which may go undetected. So if an activity is being performed manually, although that activity could have been performed through using softwares or automation, that's a far better way of doing things. And as a result, you are going to highlight this as a deficiency. Please explain, Mr. Ali is asking, please explain the difference between third and fourth. Third means authorization. So if you are going to make purchases, you are not allowed to make on your own. I am going to authorize purchases of certain amounts. Let's say up to the amount of 3,000, you are allowed to make purchases on your own. But over and above $3,000, you have to get authorization from your senior. That's authorization. If there is no evidence of authorization from the senior, that is considered as a deficiency. What's review of work? So you have, let's say, performed bank reconciliation. Okay, fine, you performed the bank reconciliation, good, well done. But you have performed the bank reconciliation, but on a sample basis, your senior should also review that. Maybe you might have committed a mistake. So that's called review of work. Is this clear now? Okay, Akbar. Yes, authorization means that before we are going to buy or before we are going to commit something, we need an approval from the senior. That's what authorization means. And review of work means whatever you have performed, that needs to be double checked, at least on a sample basis. That's called review. Okay, can please explain 6 again with different examples? 6, what 6? Look for no or not in the question. Well, we are going to hit a question in a short while. There will be something no or not, but for now, examiner might ask, might say a wording like that. When it comes to sales system, when the order is received from a customer, that order is acknowledged and it is not checked. It is not checked whether those goods are available in the stock or not. So what do you think? We should acknowledge the order without checking whether these goods are available or not. I think we should have checked it, but the examiner is saying, but you did not check it. So it means this should have been done, but the company is not doing it, and that is why it is considered as a deficiency. Okay, so we are done with half mark. That is, we have identified the deficiency. Let's continue. I will be giving you examples of all these, don't worry. Okay, how to explain the deficiency for another half mark? How to explain the deficiency, that will give us a half mark. By the way, this half mark is very easy because we are going to copy it from the question. No rocket science. How to explain the deficiency? In order to explain the deficiency, we have to use something like that. So we have to use wording which is going to create an apprehension in the mind of the client. We have to make sure that client is afraid of that thing. How to make sure that client is afraid of that deficiency? We have to make them realize that because of that deficiency, your future sales could be lost. Because of that deficiency, your customer goodwill will be compromised. If you are not going to overcome that deficiency, you might face cash flow problems and liquidity problems in the future. If you are not going to overcome that deficiency, that could increase your cost, and this will have negative impact on the business. So how to write all those things? the examiner uses wording such as this could result in, there is a risk that if this deficiency is not managed, that could lead to loss of future sales. There is a risk that because of this, cash flow problems may arise and it will have negative impact on the business. This could result in delayed production orders or delayed supplies, and as a result, we might face loss of good customer goodwill. So how to explain the deficiency? You are going to use either 1, 2, 3, or 4. And how to structure that answer? We are going to use wording such as this could result in, there is a risk that. So Mavish, you were just asking how to use the examiner wording. The answer for your question is this one. This could result in, there is a risk that. I will be demonstrating that, don't worry. So now we are finally done with 1 mark. Half mark for the identification of deficiency. We are going to copy everything from the question, and half mark for the explanation. And as far as the explanation is concerned, the explanation comes from these areas: loss of future with sales, loss of customer goodwill, cash flow problems. All these factors are there to make the client realize that if they are not going to overcome the deficiency, they are the ones who are going to face the music. Is this clear? The identification of deficiency and the explanation of deficiency, is this clear? Can I have a yes so that I feel a bit confident and move on? Is this clear? The explanation of deficiency and the identification of deficiency and the explanation of deficiency. Okay, Shreya is saying, sir, for explaining deficiency, should we explain businesses? Kind of, that you are making the client realize that if you are not going to overcome that, you are the one who is going to face the music. You are the one who is going to face the problem. If the future sales will be lost, who is going to have the problem? The client. If the customer goodwill or the customer reputation will be lost, who is going to face the music? The client. If the company is going to face cash flow problems, who is going to face the problem? The client. So all you have to do is that you have to make the client realize that it's your problem. You got to open up your eyes. You got to make sure that you need to wake up the client. Wake up, this is the problem you are going to face because of this deficiency. The half mark for the deficiency is walk in the park. We are going to copy it from the question, and for the explanation we are going to use a sentence: this will lead to, this could lead to, this increases the risk of, so wording such as this one. Yes, absolutely right. Okay, Mohammad Adil is saying, sir, good receive note needs to be sent to 3 or 4 departments. Can you please give an explanation? You're going too fast, man. Hold on. Mohammad Adil, don't worry, but you are going too fast. Out of nowhere, I need to jump to the documents straight away. Please accept my apologies. I'll come back to it. Any example of cash flow problems? For example, Sarosh, if you are going to invest too much money on your inventory, I mean you are overstocking the stock, you are having too much quantities at your disposal, what happens then? Your inventory will become obsolete, your cash flows will drain, and as a result the company is going to have problems in the survival, something like that. Yes, cash blocked, kind of, yes. Any other deficiency other than 7 points will be asked in the questions. See, okay, you are asking, is there any other deficiency other than these 7? See, these deficiencies have been identified by me using past papers. The book or the examiner does not make, they are not making a list, these are the deficiencies which will be tested. Through the analysis of past papers, these are the most commonly tested deficiencies, and I can guarantee you that 99% of the deficiencies in the past paper or in the September 2021 exam will be out of these. If you are going to figure out any other deficiency other than this 7, I don't think so that once you have mastered or practiced all these, you will have problem in that one. So if there is anything other than this, we will be able to handle that, right? Is this okay now? Isn't customer and supplier goodwill a little bit of business advice rather than the deficiency in the system, which is the only concern of the auditor and doesn't care about the business losing sales? If there is a deficiency in the system, Manasa, if there is a deficiency in the system is designed and implemented by the management. If there is a deficiency in the system, that deficiency will create problem for the client. So I'm trying to make them realize that your deficiency is going to create problem for you in the future. That's what explanation of deficiency means. Yes, you are right in this context that where the deficiencies are on the higher side, the corresponding areas of the financial statements tend to be materially misstated as well. So if the controls are weak, the risk of material misstatement becomes higher. But when you are explaining the deficiency, you have to imagine that you are making sure that client realizes this, that this is a deficiency. How does that sound? Is this clear? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, now we are done with one mark. That is, we have identified the deficiency, we have explained the deficiency. Mark my words, we are going to use wording such as this could result in, there is a risk that. These are this is the way to start the sentence of when you are going to explain. Now, I told you earlier, whenever examiner is going to ask you to explain the deficiencies, which is identify and explain the deficiency, the examiner is definitely going to ask you to explain the recommendations. What do I mean by recommendations? Recommendation means you have to suggest a good control against their poor control. You have to suggest a good control. Now, how are you going to suggest a good control? How are you going to suggest a good control? First of all, please do not commit a mistake, which is right there at the number one. Do not just repeat the deficiency. 99% of the students all over the world, they tend to score half mark in the identification of deficiency. Majority students tend to explain the deficiency as well, but greater majority students score 0 marks or 0.5 marks when it comes to explaining the recommendation. Why is that? This is a very sensitive room, because in this room there is very expensive inventory or stock is there. So this is a very high profile, very sensitive warehouse, and the stock is very expensive over here. Ideally speaking, there should be a guard outside the warehouse. Now let's say the question state there is no guard. Somebody was asking, give me an example of no or not. The question itself says there is no guard outside the warehouse. So now what have you identified the deficiency? Yes, there is no guard outside the warehouse. This could result in unauthorized access or theft or certain items being stolen, and as a result the company is going to compromise on the profitability. Okay, I have identified the deficiency from the question, I got half mark. I explained it that this is going to create problems for the company, I got another half mark. Now what about recommendation? Let me give you a poor recommendation first. A poor recommendation, an average answer, a well below average answer would be there should be a guard outside the room. That's it, full stop. You are just repeating the deficiency. You don't have to just repeat the deficiency, you have to add value. How can you add value? There should be a guard outside the warehouse along with a CCTV cameras installed, so that there is no unauthorized individual involved to enter. You have to add something. We must install CCTV cameras, and there should be a continuous monitoring of those CCTV footage. You have to add some value. Imagine, let's say the sales invoices are not sequentially numbered. According to the question, the sales invoices are not sequentially numbered. You have identified this from the question, you copied it and pasted in the exam on the solution format, you got half mark. Now you have to explain it. Considering or this increases the risk of certain invoices not sent to the customer, and as a result the customer is not going to pay us, and this is going to create losses for the company, moreover cash flow problems for the company. You got another half mark. Now what's the poor recommendation for that? The sales invoices should be sequentially numbered. That's not enough. You are just repeating the deficiency. A good recommendation would have added some value. All sales invoices should be sequentially pre-numbered, and at least on a monthly basis. And at least I'm trying to add value. I'm continuing my sentence. All the sales invoices should be sequentially pre-numbered, and at least on a monthly basis a sequential review of the sales invoices should be performed, so that if any particular invoice is missing, that could be identified and the discrepancies could be investigated or resolved. How does that sound? You have to add something. Non-current asset purchases are made by Ahmed, who is a purchasing clerk. That's it. So you have identified a deficiency that Ahmed is not senior enough and he's doing very sensitive work, that is purchasing non-current assets. Because he's not senior enough, he might purchase unnecessary items, or he might purchase at not a reasonable amount or not a reasonable quality, and that could create losses for the company. So you have identified the deficiency, you have explained it, you got 1 mark. What's the recommendation? Ahmed should not be involved in the purchases. Someone senior should be involved in the purchases. That's not enough. Someone senior, such as purchasing manager, should be executing the purchases of non-current assets, and on a sample basis or on a regular basis or on a monthly basis, purchasing director should review the transactions performed by the purchasing manager. This is how you have to add value. What do I mean by how to explain the recommendation for 1 mark? You have to suggest a good control against the poor control in place. How to come up with good control? You got to add value. Do not just repeat the deficiency. Whenever you are going to attempt a question on recommendation, read your recommendation. Have I added something in it? Have I just have I just rewritten the deficiency, or have I added something in it? How to add value? You should mention who should perform the activity, when it should be performed, on a regular basis, on a fortnightly basis, on a monthly basis, some senior official. So by these wordings you can add value to your answer. Is this clear? How to explain recommendation for 1 mark? Is this clear? Sayyid Umair is asking if one means if deficiency, no reconciliation, ask the company to run reconciliation. Yeah, if the client is not performing reconciliation and you simply recommend the client should perform reconciliation, that's not enough. Let's say the question says bank reconciliations are not performed. You have identified it from the question, that will give you half mark. Considering bank reconciliations are not performed, this increases the risk of frauds and errors which might not be identified on a timely basis, and that is going to create losses for the company. Another half mark, because you have explained it very well. Well done. Now what about the recommendation? An average answer would say bank reconciliations should be performed. No, that's not enough. Bank reconciliations should be performed by a senior member on at least monthly basis, and if there is any unreconciled items, they need to be investigated and resolved. How does that sound now, Umair? How does that sound? Great. Ashwin is saying great. Mohammad Hussain is saying, should we explain recommendation in 2 paragraphs as like we have in past papers? No, not necessarily. First of all, you have to recommend a good control and then make sure you are adding value in it. Bank reconciliations should be performed at least on a monthly basis by someone senior, and if there are any unreconciling items, they need to be identified and resolved. Something like that. Missing or unreconciled items is the same thing. No, missing item is omitted from that. It's not there. Unreconciled item is something which is not exactly there. It's not, if something is 5 in here, that should be 5 over there. That's the reconciliation. More or less it's the same thing, but if we go into the deep in it, they are two different things. Okay. 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 So now we are done with the recommendation. How to explain key control, how to identify and how to explain the key control. Key control means good control, and yes, it is the opposite of deficiency. A poor control or a deficiency is something which auditor hates it. A good control or key control is something on which an auditor might seek to place reliance on. So key controls are the actions that management has taken to reduce the risk of fraud and error. These are good controls. In order to get full 1 mark, we have to identify the key control from the question, and then we have to explain it. Now the question is how we are going to explain it, because the identification of key control is not a problem. Why I'm saying the identification of key control is not a problem? You will figure out that there is segregation of duty. You will figure out that seniority of staff is followed. You will realize in the question that the phenomena of authorization or the phenomena of review is being followed. You will realize that the particular activity is not performed manually, rather it is automated. You will realize that there are no documentation issues, such as the documents are sequentially numbered, the documents are reviewed, there are signatures. So the identification of the key control is not a problem. Now the burning question is how we are going to explain the key control. Remember, when it comes to the explanation of deficiency, we used to say this could result in, there is a risk that. Now the opposite of it. Now the opposite of it. We are going to use wording such as this. This ensures that. This minimizes the risk of. This reduces the risk of. Is this clear? How to start the sentence? This minimizes the risk of. Now let me go back to my original example. The payroll calculations are performed through an automated software. As a result, this reduces the risk of human errors or a fraud being committed by Ahmed and potential losses to the company. There is a security guard which ensures that only authorized individuals are allowed to enter this room. This ensures that, or this minimizes the risk of unauthorized access, or this minimizes the risk of things being stolen, or this minimizes or this reduces the risk of theft. Is this clear to everyone? How to explain key control? Can I have a yes? What about this frequency? Frequency means, let's say bank reconciliations should be performed at least on a monthly basis. A review of sequential good dispatch notes should be performed on a weekly basis. This is frequency. Is this clear? So now we are done with the key controls as well. We are only left with one particular requirement, that is, if the key controls are there in the question, how are we going to test the operating effectiveness of those controls? Or if you have explained the deficiencies, then you recommended good controls, how are you going to test those controls? A test of control will give you 1 mark. How to test controls? The most common methodology of testing any particular control is to inquire of management. What do I mean by inquire of management? It is your fundamental right to seek explanations from the management. So the first test of control is inquire of management. Ask the management. They need to explain it to you. They need to give you a solid explanation how things are shaping up. So the first test of control is inquire of management. The second test of control could be if there is a process or there is an activity going on, and that activity is a good activity, a good control, you might wish to visit that place and you might wish to observe the whole process. That's a test of control. If I'm going to observe a particular activity, this is considered as a test of control. The third methodology of testing a control is, as an auditor, you can enter test data into the client system. Considering the test data is entered or the dummy data is entered by the auditor, an auditor would definitely know what kind of results should be created by this test data or by this dummy data. As an auditor, I might enter few dummy or test data into the client system with mistakes and few test or dummy data without mistakes. If the client system is operating effectively, the results produced by the system would be exactly the same which I'm expecting. If I have entered incorrect data, if the system is operating effectively, the system is going to reject that particular entry. Let me give you an example. Let's say all the non-current assets have got a unique serial number. So what I'm going to do, this is a control which is designed by the management, and this will ensure that no duplication of non-current asset is there, or no same number is allocated to another non-current asset. What I'm going to do, that I'm going to create a new non-current asset, a fake one, and I'm going to assign an existing serial number to that particular non-current asset. What's the ideal result of it? Ideally speaking, the system is going to reject it. The system is going to say, sorry, I can't process it because this number is already allocated to someone else. This is the use of test data or dummy data. One last way of testing control is you can inspect the documents. Why would you want to inspect the documents? Why would you inspect the reports? Because you might wish to look for the signatures in order to make sure whether that particular thing was authorized by the senior individual. You might wish to inspect the documents in order to make sure whether the documents are sequentially pre-numbered. You might wish to inspect the documents or reports in order to make sure whether the activity was performed by Mr. A and whether the activity was reviewed by B, whether the evidence of signature is there. If there are signatures from Mr. A and there are signatures from Miss B, that reflects, or that's an indication that controls are being followed at the client. So this is how you are going to apply test of control. Is this clear? Is this clear to everyone? Abdul Hanan is saying, sir, can we use there is a risk in explaining the deficiency? Yes, you can start your sentence. First of all, you have to copy the deficiency from the question, then you can start your sentence. This could lead to, or this increases the risk of, or there is a risk that. But yes, you are absolutely right. Can we not also inspect tangible items like non-current assets? Yes. In the word inspection is used for two things. Number one, inspection of tangible items such as assets. Number second, inspection of documents. So Rosh, you are right. But for test of controls, mostly we are going to inspect documents. Okay. Can please explain test data a bit more? Test data means dummy data, fake data. So your payroll system automatically calculates the gross pay. It automatically performs the statutory deductions such as tax deductions or any other kind of deductions, and it automatically calculates the net pay. Okay, fine, fantastic. It's a good control. I will copy it from the question and I'll get half mark. Then I will explain that considering the fact that this system or this increase or this will ensure that no frauds or errors could be committed by an individual because the whole activity is performed by the software. Assuming the software is working fine, this will make the whole system more efficient. And I got another half mark. Now, how do I test that particular control? I could use a fake certain number of hours for a fake employee or for a genuine employee. Let's see, Mr. Ali Akbar. Now I know what wage rate I've entered. I know what hours I've entered. I know what should be the gross pay. I know what should be the deductions, and I know what should be the net pay. Now I'll wait for the software to perform its calculations. If the calculations performed by the software are exactly what I was expecting, I can now place reliance on the software. This is the usage of test data or dummy data. Mr. Ali, is this clear? What's the difference between inquire or inquire? No difference. No difference at all. What about recalculation? Can this be a test of control? No, Soumya, test of control. When it comes to recalculation, you are trying to figure out the amounts in the financial statement. That's a substantive procedure. Don't go to that. Is there any problem to copy deficiency from the question as like same to same? You are absolutely fine. You have to copy it from the question. That's it. No rocket science. Okay, thank you, Ali Akbar. Abdullah is saying, can we write using test data, tech of cats, review the past log and train? Yeah, why not? Can I also create fictitious employees to test to fraud? Yes, you can. Yes, QH, the handouts are same. Our audit procedures and test of control are the same. Audit procedures are of two types. Number one, test of controls, in which you are trying to test whether the controls are operating effectively. And the second audit procedures are substantive procedures, in which you try to verify whether the financial statements are reflecting a true and fair view or not. We haven't started substantive procedures as yet. Is this clear, Maru? Can we perform activities here to confirm controls are good? Can we re-perform activities here to confirm controls are good? Can we re-perform activities? Sarosh, I'm not getting your question. You have to observe whether the activity is being followed religiously by the client or not, whether they are following the SOPs. You can observe an activity. How to guess the frequency of things in recommendation? It's common sense. You will figure it out when you are going to practice the past paper. Can you please explain it again? Test of controls means that you want to verify whether the control systems designed and implemented by the management are operating effectively or not. On the contrary, the topic which I haven't started as yet, a substantive procedure means an auditor's action in which auditor wants to verify whether the financial statements, the amounts in the financial statements, are true and fair or not. So the agenda is different. A test of controls means I want to test the control. Substantive procedure means I want to verify the amount. If I memorize these 4 test of control techniques in Jan system, that's enough. You are going to practice this. Once you will practice, things will be memorized automatically, but don't memorize them straight away. That's not good. With the passage of time, with the practice, if you are good at it, you become good at it, that's fine. Sir, how can we test when a unique serial number is given to asset? You have to assign an existing serial number to a new fake non-current asset. Considering every non-current asset have got a unique number, your system is going to reject that entry. Why? Because the system is going to say this number already exists. Is this clear, Abdullah? Okay, I think I'm done with the questions for now, and it's time to start a past paper question. So the question which we have to solve today are 2, Raspberry and Frisia. Both are recent past paper questions. Let's go to these 2 questions. Dear students, this is a very important moment of today's webinar. I think the most important moment. Why I'm saying that? This particular question, which is called Raspberry, this is the only question available in your exam kits in which you have got this particular requirement of key controls. This is a very tricky and important question. Part A says that you have to identify and explain 5 key controls. We all know that in order to identify and explain 5 key controls, we'll get 5 marks. The identification will give half mark, the explanation will give half mark. So if the examiner is asking for 5, this will give overall 5 mark. Identify and explain 5 key controls. What do I mean by key controls? The controls which the auditor may seek to place reliance on. Auditor might wish to trust on them. The good controls, the strengths of the system. Now, once you have identified and explained those 5 key controls, as an auditor, you still have to test those particular controls. So describe a test of control. Our test of control means you only have to write 1. If you have got time at the end of the exam, you may wish to write 1 or 2 more, but for one particular key control, you need to have 1 test of control. Describe a test of control the auditor should perform in order to assess, in order to figure out, in order to verify whether those key controls are operating effectively. What's the objective of test of control? just to make sure that controls are operating effectively, yes or no. So 5 marks are from there, 5 marks from there. Overall, this question will give you how many marks? 10 marks. This is a very important and tricky requirement. All of you need to master this requirement today. All of you need to type and learn this question today, tonight. There is no second thought and second option in it. The question continues. Part B. Identify and explain 5 deficiencies in the company's payroll system. Again, the deficiency will be from the question, and that will give us half mark per deficiency, and the explanation will give another half mark. So overall, identification and explanation of 5 deficiencies will give us how many marks? 5 marks. But not only that, the examiner continues and provide a recommendation to address each of these deficiencies. So we have to come up with recommendations in order to overcome that deficiency. What do I mean by recommendation? A good control. Remember, I told you, do not just repeat the deficiency. You have to add value as well. Is this clear? We are going to ignore part C, and it is about internal audit, which is the agenda of day 5. We are going to ignore substantive procedures for now because that's the agenda of day 3 and day 4. So we are going to cover such requirements on day 3. So let's strictly focus on the control systems. Is this clear? Are you all clear with the exam requirement part A, part B? Mr. Nadeem, I would love to give you a break, but we'll give you a break at 8:45. I mean to say that we'll give the break after this question. After this question, we'll have a break. Then we'll have another question on control systems, and then the OTQs. Okay? Because we need to finish at least one question, then we'll have a break. Okay, Nadeem, is this okay? Okay. So let's start the question. Raspberry company operates an electric power station which produces electricity 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The company's year end is 30th June 2018, and you are an audit manager of Grapefruit and Company, the auditor of Raspberry Company. The interim audit has been completed, and you are reviewing the documentation describing the company's payroll system. Okay, the first paragraph told me nothing. The first paragraph revealed nothing. Let's go on to the second paragraph. The company employs over 250 people, and approximately 70% of the employees work in production at the power station. Okay, fine. Remember, you have to identify the key controls as well, and you have to identify the poor controls as well. There are 3 shifts every day, with employees working 8 hours each. Okay, no strength, no weakness, go on. The production employees are paid weekly in cash, no problem with that. The remaining 30% of employees work at the head office in non-production roles are paid monthly by bank transfer. Still no good control, no poor control. Let's ignore, let's go on. The company has a human resource department responsible for setting up all new joiners. So it means the payroll department on its own cannot create a ghost employee, because there is a separate human resource department which is responsible for establishing or setting up all new employees. I can see a key control over here. That is, how are you going to identify the key control? The company has a human resource department responsible for all new joiners. So now you have to explain that deficiency, that key control. This is a key control. The company has a separate human resource department. Why I'm saying separate? Because it is different from the payroll department. The payroll department is different. The human resource department is different. So you need to copy that from the question. Maximum you have to add one word, separate. The company has a separate human resource department, comma, responsible for setting up all new joiners, full stop. This is all from the question, and you have to copy it and you have to paste it, and you will get half mark for that. It's a key control which you have identified or you have copied from the question. Now you have to explain your key control. This reduces the risk of ghost or fictitious employees being set up by the payroll department because of the segregation of roles between the HR and payroll. Is this clear? There is a segregation of duty between the HR department and the payroll department, and as a result, this reduces the risk of fictitious employees being established and paid. Is this clear? The first explanation of key control. Is this clear to everyone? Thank you very much, Marok, and everyone who is suggesting this segregation duty. Yes, fantastic. Yes, Usayyid Umair, you're absolutely right. There is a segregation of duty between HR department and the payroll department. And because of this segregation of duty, the payroll department cannot create a fictitious or a ghost employee on their own, and they cannot pay it on its own. So this is this clear to everyone? The first key control and the explanation. If you want to verify it from the solution, yes, you can on a sample basis. Let's check it out. See, this will give you half mark. Now you all of you tell me, is this from the question itself, yes or no? This will give you half mark. Is this from the question? Mr. Ahmed, you said that you want to write the identification of key control on your own word, and I suggested you not to do so. I said copy it from the question. See, is this from the question itself? Tell me, is this from the question itself? Yes, yes, it is from the question itself. And Raspberry company has a separate, only the word separate is something which was not there in the question. Raspberry company has a separate human resource department which is responsible for setting up all new employees, all new joiners, whatever in the question. Copy it from the question, and this will give us half mark. Then what? Then I need to explain. And how to explain? This reduces the risk of, this ensures that, something like that. So I would start my sentence like that. This segregation of having this, or having this segregation of roles, or this segregation of duty, will reduce the risk of fictitious employees being set up and paid by the payroll department. That's it. You might wish to deviate a bit from that particular past paper answer. Obviously, you're not supposed to cram it. You don't supposed to learn every line and every word of it. So there is a segregation of roles between HR and payroll, and this reduces the risk of fictitious employee and being paid up. What would be the test of control? How are you going to test that particular control? The management is claiming that we have got segregation of duty between HR and payroll. So what can I do as an auditor? How can I test? I would like to review the job descriptions of the payroll department and the HR department in order to make sure that the setting up of new employees or new joiners is split between the HR and payroll. So the HR department establishes the new employee, and then the payroll department calculates its wages. So what are you going to do? You are going to review the job description. It's a document called job description. You are going to review the job description of the HR and the payroll just to make sure that the whole activity of setting up new employee is split between the two departments. You can have another test of control. Let's see, you would like to have a discussion with the members of the payroll department in order to understand who initiates the setting up of new employees. Those employees that might give you an answer that it's the HR department who initiates that. So these are test of controls. Is this clear to everyone? Can I have a yes? Yes, Navneet, you can do that. Being an employee of the payroll department, you might wish to enter a new joiner, and considering the fact it is according to the company, this is initiated by HR. Until or unless you have the until or unless HR has established a new employee, you will not be able to enter that. That's a valid test of control. You're right. But far easier one is that you simply review the job descriptions. Yes, Yes, you're right. You can try to establish a new employee. Yes, you're right. Okay, let's continue the question. Pre-printed forms are completed by HR for all new employees, and once verified, a copy is sent to the payroll department for the employees to be set up for payment. This form includes staff members, employee number, pay, and payroll cannot set up new joiners without this information. Is this another key control, that there is a pre-printed forms completed by HR? So you have to copy everything from the question. What you are going to copy? Pre-printed forms are completed by HR for all new employees, and once verified, a copy is sent to the payroll department for the employees to be set up for payment. This form includes staff members, employee number, and payroll cannot set up new joiners without this information. And this will give you half mark, everything from the question. Now the question is how to explain that key control. The use of pre-printed forms reduces the risk of incorrect wages, or this minimizes the risk of incorrect tax payments being calculated. So you have to explain that key control. And how are you going to explain that key control? First of all, you have to copy everything from the question. Then what are you going to explain? This use of pre-printed forms ensures that all relevant information such as tax IDs is obtained that employees prior to setup. This minimizes the risk of incorrect wages and tax payments. That's it. Good enough. Don't write in addition. That if you don't wish to write, no, you are done with 1 mark. The use of pre-printed forms will ensure that all relevant information is obtained and there is no incorrect wages and tax payments. Is this clear? How to test that particular test of control? How to test that particular control? You might wish to select a sample from the new joiners. There would be employees who have just joined, so you might wish to select a sample of new employees and make sure all of those employees have got their form, pre-printed form, and all those forms, all those pre-printed forms have all those information such as the tax related information. All those information is there. So what we are going to do, we are going to select a sample of new employees added to the payroll during the year, and we want to make sure that all those new joiners were having completion of all parts which were supposed to be there in that form. So this is how you are going to perform the test of control. So if the control is that there is a form for everyone, I'm going to select a sample of new employees and I will make sure that every employee has got that form completely filled and nothing is missed out in that particular form. Okay, let's continue. Yes, Sarah, you are absolutely right. You can try to set up an employee without having that form, or without completing 100% of that form. That would be a test of control. Yes, you are right. What test of control did I suggest? That I would like to select a sample of forms and I will try to make sure that all those forms are 100% complete. That's a test of control as well. Yes, sir, you are absolutely right. Pre-printed forms will reduce the risk of fictitious employees are not set up. More importantly, pre-printed forms will reduce the risk of any incorrect calculations being made, because all the necessary information will be there in that form. Sarosh, you are saying, can we not just say pre-printed forms are used for half mark? I'm not getting it. No option to copy paste in the exam. In the exam, you're allowed to copy and paste. You're allowed by the examiner. 100% sure shot. Okay, let's continue the question. To encourage staff to attend work on time for all shifts, Raspberry Company introduced a discretionary bonus paid every 3 months for production staff. Okay, there is a bonus and that bonus is discretionary bonus. Discretionary bonus means it is not according to a certain policy. Discretion. The production supervisor determines the amounts to be paid and notify the payroll department. Is there any key control or a poor control over here? The production supervisor determines the amounts to be paid. Yes, you are absolutely right. There is a poor control, and you are going to copy it from the question. Production supervisor determines the amounts to be paid and notify the payroll department. You are going to copy all that from the question. The production supervisor determines the amount to be paid and notify the payroll department. This is the poor control. You are going to copy it from the question. Now you got to explain it. This could result in additional payroll cost because production supervisor might pay extraordinary bonuses to his friends or family members or his, certain colleagues. That's it. See, are you comfortable with 1 mark? Production supervisor determines the amounts to be paid and notifies the payroll department. Production supervisor determines the amount of discretionary bonus to be paid and notifies the payroll department. That is, you are going to identify it from the question and you will get half mark. Now you have to explain it. This will result in, or this could result in, additional payroll costs because there is a possibility that production supervisor might pay extra bonuses to his friends or her family members, something like that. Is this clear? Is this clear? Yes, you are right. Supervisor may favor someone he likes. Yes. Okay, Mohammed Nadeem is saying, sir, sir, we are identifying good controls. No, Nadeem, we are identifying good controls and the poor controls simultaneously. If I'm going to identify a poor control, I'm going to attempt the part B simultaneously. As a student, you are not supposed to attempt the whole part A, then you are going to read the whole question again, and then you are going to attempt the part B. No, you have to attempt part A and part B simultaneously. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, Sahar, you are right. What should be the control recommendation? The bonus should be determined by someone more responsible, such as production director. More importantly, that bonus should be according to a certain written policy. Sir, you are absolutely right. That is how you are going to come up with the recommendation. What should be recommendation? Against the poor control, you have to recommend a control as well. You have to come up with recommendation. So what should be the recommendation? The bonus should be determined by more senior official, such as the production director, and that bonus should be based according to certain written policy. Is this clear? Are you all clear with the 2 marks now? Let's see what the solution has to offer. See, production supervisor determines the amount of the discretionary bonus to be paid to the employees. That's more or less from the question itself, copied. Now the explanation. Production supervisor should not determine this, as they could pay extra bonuses to friends and families, and as a result, there will be additional payroll cost. Now what should be the recommendation? The bonus should be determined. Do not just repeat the deficiency. A poor answer would be, the bonus should not be determined by the production supervisor, full stop. And this is not going to give you any mark. You have to add value. How to add value? The bonus should be determined by a responsible official, by a senior official, such as the director, and that should be based on a written policy. Is this clear now? If you're going to write till the point of written policy, you will get 1 mark. Is this clear? And that bonus should be communicated in writing to the payroll department, not a telephonic or a verbal communication. Is this clear? The 2 marks. Yes, Maruf, you're right. You're right. Abdul Rafe, so we will discuss software thing. Let's wait. Nabil is saying, in short, this is a seniority deficiency. Absolutely right, Nabil. Absolutely right. That production supervisor is not sufficiently senior enough to be deciding the discretionary bonus. Because he is not, or he or she is not senior enough, he might favor someone. He might pay extra bonuses. You're right. Okay, let's continue the question. Okay, this quarterly bonus is entered into the system by a clerk, and each entry is checked by a senior clerk for input errors prior to processing. The senior clerk signs the bonus listing as evidence of undertaking the review. Is this a poor control or a key control? Is this a key control or a poor control that quarterly production bonuses is input by the clerk into the payroll system, but each entry is checked by the senior clerk, and that senior clerk also signs it just to make sure that there is an evidence that he or she has performed the review? Is this a key control or a poor control? Absolutely correct. This is a key control. What does that ensures? This ensures that, or this reduces the risk of input errors, and as a result over or under payment being made. Let's see what the solution has to offer. The quarterly production bonus is input by a clerk into the payroll system. Each entry is checked by a senior clerk for input errors prior to processing, and they evidence their view via signature. All this will give you half mark, and this is from the question. Now the explanation. This reduces the risk of input errors, and as a result over or under payments of bonuses to employees is reduced. That's it. If everything is reviewed, obviously under or the chances of under or overpayment is reduced. That's it. What should be the test of control? What should be the test of control? You got to observe the clerk, whether he's once he's inputting the data, whether the senior clerk is checking each and every entry or not. So attend the companies at the time of bonus processing. Go on and visit the company at the time of bonus processing and observe Mr. A is inputting and whether Mr. B is reviewing each and every entry or not. That's it. That's a test of control. Observe. Let's continue. Production employees are issued with clock cards and required to swipe their cards at the beginning and at the end of their shift. This process is supervised by security staff 24 hours a day. Is this a good control or a bad control? Is this a good control or a bad control that all employees need to swipe their cards? And not only they need to swipe the cards, this whole process is monitored as well. So I cannot swipe the card for any other person. Is this a good control or a bad control? Yes, it's a good control. Yes, it's a good control. Fantastic. What does that ensures? That ensures that only genuine employees are paid for the amount of work they have actually performed. So Mr. Ahmed cannot swipe the card for his or her friend, and only genuine hours will be paid, because according to the swipe card the data is collected. So this ensures that only genuine employees are only paid for the work they have actually performed, and this reduces the chances of extra payroll costs incurred by the company. Is this clear? Let's see what the solution has to offer. See, this is all copied from the question. This is all copied from the question. Production employees are issued with clock cards and they are required to swipe their cards at the beginning and at the end of the shift. This process is supervised by security staff 24 hours a day. We will get half mark, all copy from the question. Now the explanation. This ensures that only genuine employees are only paid for the work actually performed and reduces the risk of being paid but not completing their 8-hour shift. So this reduces the risk of extra payroll cost, unnecessary payroll cost. You can squeeze it. Is this clear? Can I have a yes? How can I test that particular control? How can I test it? I can simply observe by visiting the company at the time of the shift change, that whether the employees are swiping their cards at the time of clocking in and clocking out, or at the time of, yes, I can observe. Shafad, you're absolutely right. You can observe the security staff and the employees whether they are swiping their cards and whether the whole process is monitored. That's it. Well done. Thank you. Not necessarily, Sarosh, but the most convenient way of in order to test a particular activity is to observe. Okay, let's continue. Each card identifies the employee number and links into the hours worked report produced by the payroll system. which automatically calculates the gross and net pay along with relevant deductions. Is this a key control or a poor control? Just read from each card till deductions. Just read from there. Each card identifies the employee number, links into the hours worked, produced by the payroll system, which automatically calculates the gross pay and net pay along with relevant deductions. Is this a key control or a poor control? Yes, I told you that if an activity is performed on an automated basis, on an automation rather than manually, it's a key control. Fantastic. All of you are absolutely right. Now, how to explain that key control? This automation or this automatic calculation will ensure that no arithmetical mistake, whether due to fraud or error being performed. This will ensure that correct payroll cost is being calculated. Yes, Sarosh, you're absolutely right. This reduces the risk of errors, whether due to fraud or error. Yes, Mahmood, you're absolutely right. No, Mahmood, no, Mahmood. Mahmood Ali is saying this is poor control because this is not reviewed. That's a separate story. I said don't read the question from that point of time. I said read it. Each card the calculations are automatically performed. This is a key control. And how you are going to test it? You might wish to enter dummy data. I've already explained how to use test data or dummy data. You might wish to enter dummy data for a certain employee, a certain number of hours. You might wish to check it out whether the system performs correct calculations or not. This is the test of control. First of all, let's check the solution of it. Yes. The clock card information identifies the employee number and links into the hours worked and report produced by the payroll system. As the hours worked are automatically transferred into the payroll system, this reduces the risk of input errors. What's the test of control? You can utilize the test data procedures. You can enter dummy data in order to verify whether the system is operating effectively or not. Now, let's continue the question. These calculations performed by the software are never checked by anyone. Is this a good control or a poor control now? Now, Mahmood, you are right. Now that's a poor control. Yes, this is a deficiency now. Now, how to explain that deficiency? First of all, you are going to say the wages calculations performed by the payroll system are not checked by anyone. Therefore, if there is any error or any software problem or any bug in the system, this would lead to under or over payroll cost, and that could lead to extraordinary payroll cost, or that could lead to dissatisfied employees. The system should be checked at least on a sample basis, on a monthly basis. So what should be the control which I need to recommend now? I think a senior member of the payroll team should perform certain calculations manually in order to verify whether the system is operating effectively or not. So a senior member, at least on a monthly basis, should perform certain calculations. And once those calculations on a sample basis have been performed, only then the payroll cost produced by the software should be approved. Is this clear now? How can a same control be a good and a bad simultaneously? Because these are two different things. The payroll calculations are performed by the software, so there is no human involvement for each and every calculation. That's a good control, the usage of software. But on a sample basis, we need to check the integrity of the software. We can't blindly trust the software on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 12 months a year. So after a while or so, on a monthly basis or after a certain interval, we need to make sure that software is running smoothly or not. So that's the negative side of the control. Is this clear now? Ali, is this clear? Yes, Sarosh, the test of control could be that you might wish to review the reports in order to make sure that after a regular interval someone senior is performing those activities manually and there is an evidence of signature, that will ensure that they are checked manually. Okay, in addition to tax deduction from pay, some employees' wages are reduced for such items as repayment of student loans owed to the central government. All employers have a statutory obligation to remit funds on a timely basis and to maintain accounting records which reconcile with annual loan statements sent by the government to employers. At Raspberry Company, student loan deduction forms are completed by the relevant employee and payments are made directly to the government until the employee notifies HR that the loan has been repaid in full. So another poor control, and the poor control is student loan deductions are made by the by the payroll department, but once the student himself or the employee himself notifies, only then those deductions are stopped. What if a student misses out to inform the company that their loan has been completely paid out? So the deduction needs to be stopped. On a quarterly basis, exception reports relating to changes to payroll standing data are produced and reviewed by the payroll director. Is this a good control or a bad control? On a quarterly basis, exception reports relating to changes to the payroll standing data are produced and reviewed by the payroll director. Somebody might be wondering, what is standing data? Standing data is a data which is not supposed to change on a regular basis. They are consistent for a longer period of time. So if there is any change in the standing data, that's an exceptional change, and for that change an exceptional report is created and that report is produced by someone else and then reviewed by the payroll director, because this is something very sensitive and very serious. Is this a key control or a poor control? Yes, it's a key control. And how are you going to test it? We are going to select a sample of those quarterly exception reports, and we need to make sure and we need to review that they have been A, prepared, B, reviewed by the payroll director. On a quarterly basis, exception reports of changes to payroll standing data are produced and reviewed by the payroll director. This will give you half mark, and then you got to explain it. This ensures that any unauthorized amendments to standing data are identified and resolved on a timely basis. What's the objective of that particular control? Why would you review this? Why would you review that exceptional report? You would like, as a payroll director, you would like to review that exceptional report just to make sure if there is any unauthorized amendment, you got to identify and resolve it on a timely basis. How to test it? Select a sample of those quarterly exceptional reports and then review for evidence of review, and review for evidence of review, just to make sure that there are authorized signatures of the payroll director, and if there are any exceptions, they were followed up by the payroll director. Okay, no overtime is worked by employees. Employees are entitled to take 28 holidays annually. Holiday request forms are required to be completed and authorized by relevant line managers. However, this does not always occur. Please read this paragraph all over again and tell me, is it a good control or a bad control or a poor control? I will copy everything from here up to the point of this, and this is a poor control. And this could result in employees taking unauthorized leave. And if they are taking unauthorized leave, as a result, two problems could arise at the company. A, production problems. Maybe because of the shortage of labor, production problems could be faced by the company. And more, I think more obviously, company could be paying extraordinary payroll costs. Is this clear? If the employees are entitled to holidays without any approval from the line managers, without any authorization, I told you no authorization is an indication of deficiency. So if the employees are entitled to holidays without any authorization, as a result, company could be facing production difficulties, and more commonly, company could be paying extraordinary wages. Is this clear? What should be the control recommendation? I think the control recommendation should be all the employees should be requested or informed or authorized or directed to make sure that no holiday will be allowed without the completion of the holiday form authorized by the line manager. Is this clear, this particular deficiency? Okay, Vishaka is saying, sir, exception reports are produced and reviewed by 1%, that is director. So it is not a deficiency. No, exception reports are not produced by the director. This is not the question is saying. The exception reports are reviewed by the director, or the exception report is reviewed by the director, and if there is any discrepancy, he follows it up. Is this clear, Vishaka, now? Forms are authorized by the line manager, it's a good control, but the question says this does not usually happens, so it's not a good control. Vidisha, it's a poor control. Let's read the question again. However, this does not always occur. What does that mean? That there are too many exceptions. Sometimes I'm going to get authorization and sometimes I'm going to go over the holidays without authorization. It means it's not a good control. Is this clear to everyone now? Yes, it is not on a regular or consistent basis. Okay, clear, fantastic. Okay, we are almost heading towards the last part. On a monthly basis for employees paid by bank transfer, the senior payroll manager reviews the list of bank payments and agrees this to the payroll records prior to authorizing the payment. If any errors are noted, the payroll senior manager amends the records. Yes, is it a key control or a poor control? Read the whole paragraph and try to figure out whether this is a good control or a bad control. Well done. This is a poor control because there is a lack of segregation of duty. Let's see what the solution has to offer. See, the senior payroll manager reviews the bank transfer listing, then he authorizes it, and then he is also allowed to amend the payroll records for any changes. So there is lack of segregation of duty, and once there is lack of segregation of duty, that particular individual could amend, and that particular individual could be paying extraordinary cost to someone. What should be the control recommendation? The senior payroll manager should not be able to process changes to the payroll system as well as authorize the payments. If I am going to make the changes, someone more senior should authorize it. The whole activity should be divided among two individuals. A more senior individual should authorize it. Is this clear to everyone? Okay, Mr. Abdullah is asking, sir, if we are done with 5 key controls and a question has more than 5, can we write the first 5 or we should cover the whole scenario? If the examiner is going to ask you for 5 key controls, the question will give you more than 5. You should write those 5 in which you are more confident and comfortable. You should not exceed more than 5 because there is a time challenge. This is a very time challenging exam. So if the examiner is asking for 5 deficiencies, do not write more than 5 deficiencies. If the examiner is asking for 5 key controls, do not write more than 5 key controls. Be selective. If you are not comfortable in a particular key control, leave it. Okay, for production employees paid in cash, the necessary amount of cash is delivered weekly from the bank by a security company. Is this a key control or a poor control? The involvement of security company, is it a good control or bad control? Yes, you are all right. This production, this security, the involvement of key security company is a key control because there are too many employees involved. So the amount involved would be definitely a significant one, and the security company will ensure that there is no chances of misappropriation or theft. What's the test of control? You can inquire the payroll department how the cash is delivered to you guys. 2 members of the payroll department produce the pay packets. One is responsible for preparing them and the other checks the finished pay packets Both members of staff are required to sign the weekly payroll listing on completion of this task. Is this a key control or a poor control? Again, this is a key control because there is again segregation of duty. So if you are good at segregation of duty, this will be tested. This could be tested more than once in the exam. The pay packets are then delivered to the production supervisor, who distribute them to employees at the end of the employee shift, as they know each member of their production team. So there is no indication that that particular production supervisor identifies certain kind of ID or clock card. He just delivers the pay packets. So there is a possibility he might pay someone unnecessarily, or the pay packet of one could be given to the another. So this is the deficiency here. Monthly management accounts are produced which detail variances between budget account amounts and actual revenue, and key production costs are detailed. However, there are no overtime costs, wages and salaries are not analyzed. Again, this is a deficiency. You are going to copy all that from the question. Monthly management accounts, from here to this is a deficiency. You are going to explain this could lead to extra costs being paid because the board is not, or the directors are not monitoring the wages and salaries. So they might be paying extraordinary costs and they won't be able to identify the problem. What should be the recommendation? The management accounts should incorporate variances regarding the salaries and wages, and if there are significant variances, they need to be fully investigated and discrepancies need to be resolved. Is this clear? The poor control, the last paragraph, is this clear to everyone? Is this clear to everyone? Can I have a yes? Are we clear with this? We have identified more than the required key controls. We have identified more than the deficiencies. That is how we are going to tackle questions such as this one. This is a very important and tricky question. If somebody is not 101% prepared with respect to this question, do not attempt any mock and do not attempt your final exam. This question is the most important question of internal among the internal control system. I cannot emphasize more the importance of this question. This is the most important question we have. Is this clear? Okay, it's almost 9 o'clock according to my local time. Let's have a break of 10 minutes. I will be back after exact 10 minutes. And what's the agenda after the break? After the break, we will have another question, plus we will have OTQs regarding the control systems, and we will try to cover the OTQs which we missed yesterday as well. So hang on. The next 1 hour would be extremely important for all of you, and we will solve the OTQs as well. So let's have a break for 10 minutes. Okay, after the break we'll have this question. It's called Frisia. I will be explaining few knowledge based things regarding the internal control system, then we'll quickly go to that question, and after that question we'll solve the OTQs, and the OTQs will be so very conceptual. So let's have a break for exact 10 minutes. After exact 10 minutes I'll be back. Done? Okay, see you. If somebody wants to post their questions in the chat box or question section, you can post your questions. I'll answer those questions after the break. Thank you. Okay, we are done with the 10 minutes break and it's time to continue because we have got huge things to catch up. Okay, Mohammad Qadir Sheikh has asked a question. If I'm going to write 6 key controls, however, the first one is completely wrong, will I get the full 5 marks? Yes, you will get the full 5 marks. The examiner is, if you're, let's imagine you wrote 8 key controls. Examiner is going to give you the 5 marks for the 5 best key controls. 5 best according to the marks you have scored. So if you have expressed 6th and the 7th and 8th, it's in your best interest. But what I'm suggesting is take a moment and make sure that you are right whenever you are writing anything, any part, any question. Make sure that you are attempting with great authority, and you don't have to rely on this thing that okay fine, if my first one is wrong, okay fine, I'll get the marks from the 6th one, because time management is the key to success. That's why I would recommend, if the examiner has asked you for 5, the question is offering you 7, write the best 5, don't go for the 6th one. How does that sound, Kadir? Are you clear now? If we write more than 5 controls, which examiner will mark all controls, examiner will choose the first 5. Tape, we know the examiner is going to mark all 5, but that's not recommended. Is this clear to you as well now? Okay, Umair has got a request that kindly show me the exam requirements again. Okay, I'll show you. These are the exam requirements. The first exam requirement is a knowledge based. You need to express the control objectives of any particular system. The exam requirement 2, 3 could be tested as a pair. 2, 3 along with 5 could be tested. We are going to solve a question right now which will be a combination of 2, 3 and 5. We just solved a question in which the examiner tested 2 and 3 and 4 and 5. The examiner asked you to identify and explain the deficiency from the payroll system of Frisia. Sorry, what was the name of the question? Raspberry, I guess. Raspberry. And then you need to wrote the recommendation. So 2, 3 was tested. Then there was a requirement, you need to identify and explain 5 key controls and provide a test of control. So 2 and 3 could be tested, 4 and 5 could be tested. Last but not the least, which I'm about to start, examiner could ask you to identify and explain deficiencies, requirement number 1. The examiner is going to ask you to provide recommendation, requirement number 3. Then skip the 4th one. The examiner is going to ask you to provide a test of control. So 2, 3 and 5 could be tested. Is this clear to everyone now? Okay. Kindly show me the exam required. Sir, you told me to remind you about the letter report. Yes, okay, let me show you the letter. I'll show the letter. Wait. What about the columns and tables? Nothing about it. Columns and tables will be there in the question. You have to write the heading of it and then attempt the question. If you found key control, attempt it over there. If you found poor control, attempt it over there. Don't read the question all over again. Be smart. Kalavyani is asking me, do I have any other similar questions such as Raspberry? Unfortunately, right now I don't have any question, not available in the kits. So focus on this one. Suppose Mr. Hussain is asking, suppose question asks 3 controls. Then I find 5 key controls, 3 from segregation of duties, 1 from authorization, another from seniority. So if I answer all, do whatever you want to, man. If the examiner has asked you for explaining 3 key controls, and if you have found 3 different instances of key controls with respect to segregation of duty, you can go on and you can write all of them. No problem with that. But I'm sure examiner is not going to load the question with all the key controls associated with segregation of duties. Okay, Hussain, is this clear? Mohammad Qadir, welcome. Okay, okay, Ashwin sir, when it says describe, Can we just give definition of the narrative notes? No, if the question says describe, you have to write the definition and then you have to add one more sentence in it. If it is going to ask you define, then the definition alone is enough. Why this webinar is getting disconnected after regular intervals, Mr. Irshad? That can be answered by ACCA or your ISP, internet service provider, because I think at my end there is no problem. I hope there is no problem at your end as well. I really hope so. Okay, Zulkarnain is saying everything is clear. Fantastic. It's okay, no problem at Sarosh end. So fantastic. Okay. Okay, there is another question. Let's continue. Question, then OTQs. Part A. Describe the method for documenting internal control systems and explain the advantage of this method. Two methods the examiner has asked you, narrative notes and questionnaires. Again, this is knowledge based. In order to document any sales system, any purchase system, any XYZ system of the company, there are three possible ways of doing it. The first method is called narrative notes. What are narrative notes? Basically, narrative notes is a written description of a system. A written description will write down what happens at each and every stage, what controls are in place at each and every stage. That's the description of narrative note. It's a story. These are sentences which will reveal what are the stages, what are the controls, who does that, who reviews that, what happens then. So this is called narrative notes. What's the advantage of narrative note? They are very simple to record. They are easily understood by a new individual, or they facilitate learning. The second methodology of documenting a client system is called flow chart, which is not available in the question. Flow chart are diagrammatic representation. The blockchains, the diagrams, it's a diagrammatic representation, flow chart. The third method is called questionnaires. Questionnaires are of two types. Number one, internal control questionnaires, which is also called ICQS, internal control questionnaires. And the second is called internal control evaluation questionnaires. What is the difference between the two? Internal control questionnaire means the auditor is going to provide a ready-made list of controls to the client, and the auditor is going to request the client, out of these list of controls, with those controls which are in place or implemented by you, please tick them. That's it. Confirm me that these controls are implemented. That's it. This is called internal control questionnaires. And what is internal control evaluation questionnaires? I am going to ask the management that there is a risk. What controls do you have in place against this risk? Explain me all those controls which you have in place. This is called internal control evaluation questionnaires. This is all knowledge based. You got to learn all that from the book or the kit or past paper answer, wherever. This is all knowledge based. See what the examiner has to say. Part A requires knowledge from the textbook, so you have to learn it. This is the definition, this is the advantage, this is the definition, this is the advantage. So let's go to the part B. And part B is the last part of the day. In respect of internal controls of the F company, first of all, we have to identify and explain 6 deficiencies. So that will give us 6 marks. Identification will give half mark, the explanation will give another half mark, 6 marks. Mind you, the identification will be from the question itself. And for the explanation, we will use wording such as this increases the risk of, this could lead to, there is a risk that as a result of this. Part 2, recommend a control to address each of these deficiencies. What about recommendation? What about recommendation? When we are going to write the recommendation, we have to add value. We are not supposed to just rewrite the deficiency. We have to add value. Last part, describe a test of control which the auditor would perform in order to verify whether the controls are operating effectively or not. Are you all comfortable and clear with the requirement? This is 18 marks, huge number. 6 deficiencies, 6 control recommendations, 6 tests of controls. Is this clear? What is that one line to write in case of describe instead of define? See, narrative notes consist of written description of the system. That's the definition. But in order to describe, you got to go into a bit detail. They detail, they reveal what occurs at each and every point of the system, what controls are incorporated at each and every stage. This extra sentence gives you complete marks. Is this clear? A bit more. I just want you to add something more. Okay, Mohammad Kadir has asked a very typical question. How much approximately marks will be there for knowledge based? In the section B, out of 70 marks, 10 to 15 marks are pure knowledge based marks, which have got nothing to do with the scenario. And either you are going to score full 15 out of 15, or you are going to get nothing out of it, because you can't create it on your own. Okay, Sarah, well done. Questionnaires are two, right? Internal control questionnaires and internal control evaluation questionnaire. Yes, they are of two types. You are absolutely right, Subhaya. You are right. Are you all clear with the requirements of this new question? Okay, if you all are clear, this is a very, very, very tricky question again. I would highly recommend after that Raspberry question, this Frisia company is a very tricky question. Why I'm saying that? There is a chunk from sales system. There is a chunk from payroll and inventory system. Sorry, purchase and inventory system. And finally, this has got flavors of payroll system as well. So everything is there. Almost all the more than 50% syllabus is covered through this system, this particular question. So let's start reading the question. I'm going to skip the first paragraph. You're not supposed to do that in the exam. Let's start from there. F company generates revenue through visits by its sales staff to customers' premises. Sales ledger clerk who work at head office carry out credit checks on new customers prior to being accepted. Okay, fine. That's a key control, that we are not blindly accepting any XYZ customer. Rather, before accepting a new customer, we are performing credit checks. That's a key control, but that's not required in the question right now. And then set up their credit limits. So that's a key control, but this is not required. I'm just trying to highlight because somebody asked me they want more practice of key control. So I'm trying to highlight a key control over here. Sales staff visit retail customer sites personally, and orders are completed using a 4-part pre-printed order forms. That's another key control, that the order form are 4-part. Why 4-part? 1 copy is left with the customer, 1 copy is returned to the ordering department, 3rd copy to the warehouse, and 4th copy to the finance department. I remember at the start of today's session, somebody asked me about those documents and the number of copies. So this is another key control. All the 4 major stakeholders are involved. 4 copies, 1 with the customer, 1 with the ordering department, 1 with the warehouse, and 1 with the finance or accounts department. Fantastic. Another key control that will ensure that if any order is missing, ordering department can follow it up, accounts department know what they have to pay. So that's fantastic. Let's continue. I haven't found any deficiency as yet. Each sales order number, all those order numbers, each sales order number is based on the sale person's own identification number in order to facilitate monitoring of sales staff performance. There is a deficiency here. What's the deficiency? Can you tell me in the question section? No, Sarosh, 2 parts are not enough. If 1 part is with the customer and 1 part is with the company, which department of the company? The ordering department should know, the accounts department should know. So 1 part, 2, at least 4 parts. What's the deficiency here? Well done, Waleed, well done, Hanan, well done, O'Brien. Yes, well done. Fantastic. Customer order numbers are given a number based on their salesperson's own identification number. You are going to identify this deficiency. Each sales order number is based on the salesperson own identification number. Full stop. That's the control deficiency. then you have to explain these numbers are not sequential, and as a result it will be difficult for the company to identify if there is any particular order missing. They won't be able to monitor all the orders, and as a result if a certain order is missing they won't be able to identify it. And if they won't be able to identify it, the the customers might be disappointed, right? Because if a particular order is not monitored or followed up or fulfilled on a timely basis, the customer is waiting for the delivery but you are not delivering it, what happens then? The customer gets disappointed. Is this clear? Now what should be the recommendation? All the sales order forms should be sequentially pre-numbered, but that's not enough. You have to add more value in it. How you are going to add more value? All the sales orders should be sequentially numbered, and on a regular basis a sequence check should be performed in order to figure out if there is any missing order. How does that sound? The control recommendation. Okay, Abdul Rafi, I'll show the answers. I will show the answers. So what should be the test of control now? What should be the test of control now? I think you need to re-perform the control testing performed by the management. You need to make sure the sequential review has been performed, and if there were any missing orders, they were resolved or they were identified on a timely basis. Okay, there is one thing which I missed out earlier. Sales ledger clerks who work at head office carry out credit checks on new customers prior to being accepted, and they set credit limits. There is one deficiency here. What's the deficiency? The deficiency is customer credit limits are set by the sales ledger clerks. The sales ledger clerks are not sufficiently senior enough, and as a result there are two possibilities. A poor answer or an average answer will give one reason, but a good answer will say, considering credit limits are set by sales ledger clerk and sales ledger clerks are not senior enough, there are two possibilities. They might set credit limits too high, and if the credit limits are too high, the chances of bad debts are on the higher side, and they might set credit limits too low, and as a result company might lose future sales. So this is another deficiency. What should be the control recommendation for that deficiency? Credit limit should be established by a more senior member of the accounts department, and those credit limits established by that senior member should be reviewed by more responsible officials such as the sales director. What should be the test of control? I think you need to select a sample of new employees or new customers, not employees, new customers, and you got to review that who authorized the credit limit, and more importantly whether there was a review performed by the senior director or someone more senior. Is this clear? The two deficiencies we have gone through so far. Yes, Ahmed, you are absolutely right. The clerk might collude with the customer to set up high credit limits. Yes, you are right. The clerk is not senior enough. Yes, you are right. Yes, you can say the credit limit should be established by the credit controller. Moreover, that those credit limits should be reviewed by more senior official. Well done. Limit set should be regularly monitored if they need to be changed. Yes, Navneet, you're absolutely right. Credit control limit should be set by credit control department and credit control in accordance with the credit rating agencies. Yes, and they need to be reviewed. Add something. Well done. Yes, the credit limit should be according to certain policies, and they should be established by senior person. Well done. Yes, we need to review the credit limits on a regular basis in order to make sure those limits are not outdated. Sarosh, you are right. Well done. Let's check out the solution for these two deficiencies. Okay, the first deficiency, all the way from the question, credit limits are established by sales ledger clerk. The sales ledger clerks are not sufficiently senior, and as a result they may set credit limits too high, leading to irrecoverable debts, or too low, leading to loss of sales. 1 mark. Are you all comfortable with this 1 mark? Half mark for this one, that's copied from the question. Half mark for the explanation. Are you all clear with this 1 mark? Now the recommendation, credit limit should be set by a senior member of the sales department or a credit control department, and they should be reviewed by a responsible official. Adding value. Test of control. Select a sample of new customers accepted in the year and review the authorization of credit limit and ensure this was performed by a responsible official. Okay, another one. Customer orders are given a number based on their salesperson's own identification number. That will give you half mark. Copy it from the question. Now the explanation of this. If these numbers are not sequential, as a result, the sequential review cannot be performed, and as a result, missing orders will be harder to identify. And this could lead to loss of customer goodwill, because the customer will be waiting for the delivery and you are not aware of it. What should be the recommendation? All sales orders should be sequentially numbered, and a regular review should be performed in order to identify any missing order. What should be the test of control? Re-perform the control. This is a control that they perform the sequential review. You just re-perform the control. Make sure that sequence check is there. Make sure if there is any gap, this is discussed and resolved with the sales ordering staff. Is this clear? The first 6 marks out of the 18 marks. Can I have a yes from all of you? That are you all clear with first 2 deficiencies, the recommendations, and the test of control? Oh, thank you very much, all of you. Fantastic. Let's continue. Retail customers are given payment terms of 30 days, and most customers choose to pay their invoices by bank transfer. Each day, Lily Shah, a finance clerk, posts a bank transfer receipt from the bank statements to the cash book and then updates a sale ledger on a monthly basis. She performs a bank reconciliations. So basically, she does everything. What's the deficiency here? What's the deficiency? Yes, Zulkarnain, no segregation of duty. You have to copy everything from the question. Lily Shah, the finance clerk, is responsible for several activities. She does this, she does that, she does this, she does that. Copy it from the question. This is a lack of segregation of duty. She might commit errors or frauds which will remain undetected, and company is going to suffer. That's the explanation. What the recommendation? These key roles and key activities should be divided, and they should be split between different individuals, so that one is going to perform an activity and the other one is going to review it or monitor it. What should be the test of control? You got to review the files. You got to discuss with the financial controller which members of staff are allocated with certain activities. Is this clear? Yes, Zulkarnain. Yes, Navneet, you're right. Yes, Ahmed, you can use the logins, that who logins for this activity, who logins for that activity. So in this way, you will be able to identify whether this whole activity is divided into. Well done. So we are done with the sales system. Let's quickly explore purchase system. Receipts of raw materials and goods from suppliers are processed by the warehouse team at head office, who agree the delivery to the purchase order, check the quantity and quality of goods, and complete a sequentially numbered good receive note. The good receive notes are sent to the finance department daily. So the good receive note is sent to the finance department, but good receive note is not sent to the ordering department. Now, Sarosh, you said a few moments ago that only one copy for the company is good enough. Now you tell me what's the mistake here. The good receive note is sent to the accounts department. Fine, that sounds logical. But good receive note is, the copy of the good receive note is not gone to the ordering department. So what happens then? The ordering department will not be aware whether a certain order has been completed or not. Yes, Sarosh, you are right, and everyone else, all of you are right. Sir, yes, you are right. This could result in unfulfilled orders, and the ordering department will be unaware. They will not be aware that a certain order is not completed as yet. What happens then? Production could be stopped. As a result, customer deliveries could be halted. So this is the explanation of it. What should be the recommendation? Again, the good receive note should be created in 4 parts, or at least in 3 parts. One copy would go to the accounts department. Yes, one copy should go to the warehouse department, and one stays with the good warehouse department. One copy to the ordering department, though the 4th copy goes back to the customer. That's the recommendation. What's the Test of control. You got to review the file and you got to make sure that the good received notes copies are available, and they are 4 parts, and there is a review. There is a review for the missing orders. Yes, kindly elaborate that which department needs to receive the. Okay, good receive note. One copy should be with the customer, with the supplier. The supplier is going to take away one copy. Why they are going to take away one copy? Because according to that good receive note, they are going to send us the invoice. We have received goods. The supplier is going to take away one copy. So one copy is gone. Within the company, there should be 3 copies. One copy with the warehouse department. After all, they have received the goods. They need to keep the record of it. One copy to the accounts department, because according to that, they should expect the invoice, and according to that, they need to make the payment. And one copy should go to the fourth, and the last copy should go back to the ordering department, so that they should be made aware that the order which they place is now completed and fulfilled. Is this clear to everyone? Can I have yes for this one? These documents are extremely important. Ahmed especially. Thank you, Ahmed. Thank you. Thank you, Zulkarnain, Subaya, Azra, Sarosh, Ajwa. Fantastic. Crystal clear, Sarosh. Fantastic. Thank you, Halima, Rabia. Fantastic. Ushna is saying kindly repeat it. Okay. I am the stores department and I am receiving the goods from the supplier. Once I'm going to receive the goods, I'm going to create a document called good receive note. Once I'm satisfied with the quantity and quality of the goods, I will create a document called good receive note. One copy of the good receive note I will hand over to the supplier, so they are going to deposit it in their accounts department, and the invoice will be created according to that. So one copy is gone out of the company. Forget that one copy. That copy is gone with the supplier. One copy is with the stores department, because they have received the goods, so they need to keep the record of it. So one copy is within the stores department. Now stores department has given one copy to the supplier, has kept one copy with itself. Now 2 more copies need to be created or generated by the stores department or good receiving department. One copy to the company's accounts department, because according to that good receive note, accounts department is supposed to make the payment after few days. And one copy to the ordering department, because they need to make sure, they need to realize that the order which they place is now fulfilled and this certain quantity has been received. Is this clear now? Is this clear now? Thank you. Okay, the good receive notes. On receipt of purchase invoice from the supplier, Camilla Brown, the purchase ledger clerk, matches it to GRN and order, and 3 documents are sent to authorization by the appropriate individual. Once authorized, the purchase invoices are locked into the purchase ledger by Camilla, who utilizes the document count controls to ensure correct number of invoices has been input. So there is another deficiency here, and that deficiency is that Miss Camilla is applying what? She's applying document count control. Document count control means she's just making sure that 10 documents are there, so 10 documents have been involved in the total. She's not monitoring the application controls. She's not checking out the accuracy and completeness of those documents. So this is another deficiency. Okay, one easier one. You have got 60 seconds. All of you, please read this one. This is a very easy one. I'm leaving it for you. The company values its inventory using standard cost, both for internal management reporting and for inclusion in the year-end financial statement. The basis for a standard cost was reviewed approximately 18 months ago. What's the deficiency here? Can you tell me what's the deficiency here? Yes, the standard cost is outdated. It's not up to the date. Well done. There is a possibility that NRV will be below cost. So the deficiency is the company values its inventory using standard costs which are not being up to date. 18 months is a long period of time. There is a risk that the costs are misstated. There is a possibility that there are significant changes, and as a result, year-end inventory could be misstated. Well done. What should be a recommendation? I think all the standard costs should be reviewed on a regular basis by a senior official. What should be the test of control? You need to make sure that all the standard costs have been revalued on a regular basis. Well done, well done. Now comes the payroll department. We are already done with the payroll department, so I'm not going into it. I know you can do it on your own. Okay, now I'm done with this question as well. And I'm going for the OTQs now. Okay, one more thing. What about report? There are 2 marks available for the report. What about it? Okay, there could be 2 marks available for the report. How you are supposed to get those 2 marks? You have to write report to management, that's your title. Board of directors, XYZ company, whatever the name of the company in the question. Don't write all that, skip all that. You might wish to write the date 6 September 2021. Board of directors, ABC company, whatever the name in the question, date, that's it. Then what you have to write? Please find enclose the report to management on deficiencies in internal controls identified during the audit for the year ended, which will be available in the question. The appendix to this report considered the deficiencies in the sales system, purchase system, payroll system, and the implications of those deficiencies and the recommendations. So definite, whatever you have expressed, this question is about deficiencies and the recommendation. So that's what the statement is saying, that in the appendix you are going to find the deficiencies and the recommendations. Please note that this report only addresses the deficiencies identified during the audit, and if further testing had been performed, maybe more deficiencies would have been reported. This report is for the use of management, and you are not supposed to share with anyone without my permission. And if you still have any queries, please do not hesitate to contact us, audit firm. You got to learn these sentences for 2 marks. Maybe it could be tested in your exam. Is this clear? The format of the report? Basically, we want to highlight, because we want to highlight that this report is made for the management, and they are not supposed to share it with anyone. If they have got any queries, they can you can contact us. Are you clear with the report? Shreya is asking any knowledge based question. Yes, the objectives, the narrative notes, the flow charts, that's the knowledge base area we have. General controls and application controls. There are 2 types of controls. General controls are accessible controls. They are for a broader perspective. Let's say security guard, not the unauthorized access. These are general controls. Application controls are for specific things, for within the system. Let's say the authorization limit, the credit limit, for example, the amount limit. So these are application controls. Okay, let's go to OTQs. I need to go to at OTQs. Okay, I think we need to start OTQs from internal controls, which we just studied. Okay, here is the first OTQ. Now I will take your questions after the OTQs. Let's concentrate on this letter is going to test an exam. Ushna is asking, not a guarantee, but it could be tested for 2 marks. The examiner is going to say, explain 5 deficiencies and provide 5 recommendations, but the total marks will be 12 rather than 10, and 2 marks will be for that covering letter. It's called covering letter. Okay, let's start the OTQs. You are an audit manager in S company and you are responsible for the audit of C company. The internal control systems in relation to purchase and payroll have recently been documented by the audit junior. Tests of controls have been performed to evaluate the effectiveness of the system. What's the reason of applying test of controls? Just to make sure the system is operating effectively. The audit junior has used narrative notes and internal control questionnaires to document the system. You are reviewing the work performed by the audit junior before assessing the impact on the audit approach to be taken in respect of purchase and payroll. The following features of the purchase and payroll system have been noted in the audit junior's documents. So this is the most important part of the question. This is about the client system. Okay. Goods are counted and agreed to the supplier's delivery note before signing the delivery note to accept goods. So when the goods are received, we are going to count it and agree to the supplier's delivery note. But there is a problem. Once we are accepting the goods, we are counting it, good. We are matching it with the supplier's delivery note, good. But we are not matching it with one more thing. What is that? Can somebody tell me? No, not invoice, not invoice. Invoice comes very late, very late. What? No. Don't think about invoice. Invoice will come very late after a certain time period. Yes, the purchase order. Majority of you are right. Purchase order. We are acknowledging and accepting goods without realizing what we actually ordered. So just imagine you are the supplier. You brought 100 kilograms. You have written 100 kilograms on your goods delivery note, and I am checking out the goods and I'm checking out the delivery note and I'm accepting it. What if I ordered only 80 kilograms? Okay, let's continue the question. The purchase invoice is matched to and filed with related goods received note and purchase order by the purchase ledger team in the finance department. That sounds all right. Payroll sending data files are sent to the departmental managers on a monthly basis for review. That's all right. We started this today as well, that the sending data files needs a review. That's fantastic. Hours worked are entered into a pre-printed payroll sheet by the wages clerk. Well done, pre-printed payroll sheet. Before payroll payments are made, the finance director reviews the bank transfer list and signs to authorize the payment to be made. Okay. Question number 76. The first question. Let's concentrate the last 10 to 15 minutes of this session of webinar, the most tricky part of the webinar. Select whether the following advantage and disadvantage relate to narrative notes, internal control questionnaires, or both. The first advantage is can be prepared in advance. Can you prepare the narrative notes of a particular client system in advance? No, you cannot. Because how can you prepare narrative notes in advance? If you haven't started the audit, if you don't know the client system, you cannot prepare narrative notes in advance. You have to start work, then you have to realize how the system operates. Only then you will be able to, prepare the narrative notes. So narrative notes cannot be prepared in advance. But can you prepare a list of internal control questionnaires in advance? Yes, you can. So you are going to only take can be prepared in advance for the sake of internal control questionnaires. Narrative notes are easy to understand. Yes. Narrative notes are internal control questionnaires are easy to understand. Yes. All the ticks will suggest yes. All the crosses will suggest no. So I will go for both. Disadvantages. May overstate the controls. May overstate the controls. This disadvantage applies on internal control questionnaires. What happens if there is a control not fully implemented by the client? The client might tick it. The client might say, yeah, we apply more or less something like that. So they're going to tick it. As a result, the control systems will be overstated. So may overstate the controls. Some controls may be missed. Yes, some controls may be missed in both of them. What if there is a particular control which is not available in your list of internal control questionnaire, or maybe when you were writing everything, the whole system become too lengthy, and as a result we were unable to pick it up. So some controls may be missed. For that, I'm going for both. Is this clear to everyone? The question. Fantastic. Let's go to question number 77. Select whether the features of the purchase and payroll system described in the question are strengths or deficiencies. The question is only asking about 1, 2, 3, and 4. You have got 60 seconds. Read this 1, 2, 3, and 4 and figure out which one is strength or which one are weaknesses. Well done. Majority of you are absolutely right. The first one is deficiency, because the goods are accepted without realizing what we actually ordered. That's a deficiency. But the next three are strength. Okay. Yes, Arosh, only one is weakness. Yes, yes, yes. So Baba is asking, can you please explain how does it overstate the controls? Overstate the controls means, what if a control was not fully implemented by the client, but they might going to tick it, they might going to say yes we do it, so as a result the controls will be overstated. Sir, please explain the good received part number 1 in the question. Thank you. When the goods are received, they are matched against the delivery note. The delivery note is a document from the supplier, so the supplies are from the supplier, the document is from the supplier, but you sign that document and it becomes goods received note, but you did not verify the original order, so that's the deficiency. Okay, let's continue. Question number 78. Which of the following control objective is addressed by feature number 5? Today's webinar started with the control objectives. These are the reasons behind the system. So you got to read the number 5th statement and verify which objective is addressed here. First of all, read the 5th statement. Before payroll payments are made, the finance director reviews the bank transfer list and signs to authorize the payments to be made. So the the finance director is reviewing the payments list and making sure what's the objective of this one. Anyone? 78. Why the finance director is reviewing everything? That report will not help in correctly classifying the payroll cost. That report has got nothing to do with the classification. So 1 is not the correct answer. Yes, the second option. Yes, the second option. Because of that review, the finance director will be able to verify that only valid employees are paid. There is no ghost employee in there. What that report will not reveal the calculations, the wage rate, that everything. To ensure employee salaries have been calculated correctly, no, that report will have the names and the amounts, not the breakdown or not the calculations. So D is not the correct answer. Obviously C is not the correct answer as well. 79. You have reviewed the work of the audit junior and you have concluded that reliance can be placed on the internal controls. So you are satisfied with the test of controls. What impact will this have on the nature and extent of substantive audit procedures to be performed at the final audit? So if you are confident about the client's internal controls, what impact it will have? 79. If the controls are operating effectively, what happens then? Let me give you an option. If the controls are operating effectively, are you not going to perform substantive procedures at all? Are you going to exempt yourself from applying substantive procedures? Are you not going to perform any substantive procedure whatsoever? No, 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 yes. Even if the controls are operating effectively, we are not supposed to exempt ourselves from applying substantive procedures. But yes, because the controls are operating effectively, because the control risk is on the lower side, because the risk of material misstatement is on the lower side, we can have lower substantive testing, so that we can decrease the sample sizes when performing substantive testing. Why? Because we are going to place reliance on the test of controls and the controls designed by the management. But that does not mean that we are going to ignore substantive procedures. Last question, a very tricky question, very tricky question. The payroll section of the audit plan of the coastal company includes following procedures. So you are going to apply the following procedures. You have to identify out of these 4 procedures which one or which 2 or which one of them are test of controls and which of them are substantive procedures. Let me give you a hint. Test of control means you are testing the client's control system. Substantive procedure means you are trying to verify the amounts. You have got 60 seconds. Yes, Sarosh, even if the control system is operating effectively, you have to remain skeptic and you have to apply substantive procedures. You are right. Okay, let me go to the question number 83. Sorry, 80. When I'm going to recalculate the total amount, it's a substantive procedure because I'm trying to verify the payroll amount. It's a substantive procedure. But when I'm inspecting the report in order to verify whether the director has reviewed it and whether there are authorized signatures of the directors over there, I'm not bothered about the amount. I'm bothered about the system, the control, the signature, the review. It's a test of control. For a sample of employees, you are agreeing the salary details in the standard out to calculation to the, you are calculating the amount, you are verifying the amount, you are verifying the accuracy of the payroll amount. That's a substantive procedure. Now you are reviewing the procedures to ensure payroll files and documents are kept secure and confidential. No unauthorized individual is allowed to enter room 10, and in the room 10 there is everything confidential. That's a test of control. What's the control? The files are kept confidential. You are testing it. That's a test of control. So 1 and 3 substantive, 2 and 4 is test of control. Greater majority of you are right in this case. Let's solve another OTQ. The following scenario relates to question 81 to 85. It might be the last OTQ. Each company manufactures what? Each company manufactures snacks such as potato chips, which are supplied to large and small food retailers. Each company has experienced significant growth over recent years, and in response to this growth, senior management has established an internal audit department to improve the control environment of the company. You are a member of the recently formed internal audit department. You are a member of the recently formed internal audit department. Senior management of each company has concerns about the effectiveness of the company's sales and dispatch system and has instructed the internal audit department to perform a review of the system. Any deficiencies identified are to be reported to the finance director, who will report the findings back to the board of directors at the next board meeting. Recommendations for improvements are also to be provided. During the review, the following deficiencies were identified. So here are the deficiencies. Availability of the inventory is not checked until at the time of ordering. So once we receive an order, we don't check the availability of inventory and we simply accept the order. Okay. Telephone orders are initially noted on a piece of paper and then transferred on an order form after the call has ended. So there could be a mistake when we are writing this, or we might skip, we might forget to write it, or we might do some manual mistake. Order forms are not sequentially numbered. You all know what happens then. The online ordering system allows customer to place orders which exceed their credit limit. That's very bad. That could lead to bad debts. Question number 81. Which of the following is not an objective of the H company's sales and dispatch system? So out of these 4, 3 are the objectives of the sales and dispatch system which you need to learn. But one of them is not. Take your time. 60 seconds. Sahar, Kalamani, Asher, Dawn, Balid, Shriya, everyone is right. Miss Pram, you're not right. Attar, you are not right. Ushna, you are not right. Sarosh, you are right. Okay, too many answers. Okay, guys, the sales and dispatch department will want to make sure that only those orders should be accepted if goods are available. Otherwise, we don't wish to accept an order. This is your knowledge base. You got to learn it. What's the objective of sales and dispatch system? In order to ensure that orders are only accepted if goods are available. Otherwise, we don't want to accept an order. We want to make sure that when orders are received, we record them completely and accurately. We don't wish to make mistakes in it. That's another objective of sales and dispatch system. We want to make sure that when goods are dispatched, they are dispatched at the correct address, at the correct time, on a timely manner, at the correct invoice. That's another objective. To ensure discount received. Discount received has got to do with the purchase system, not the sales system. Discount received. What does received means? You're purchasing things. So that's not the objective of sales and dispatch system. Is this clear? Those who were incorrect, can you please confirm me? Are you clear now? Are you clear now? Can I have yes from all of you? Thank you, Shna. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Atar. Fantastic. Thank you, Ujwa. Match the control deficiencies to an appropriate explanation of the issue. Okay, we have to read the deficiency and then we have to relate them with the explanation. What's the deficiency? Number one, availability of inventory is not checked when the order is received. What happens then? Match it with the appropriate explanation. As a result, if things are not available, what happens then? Yes, Alima, you're right. There is a risk of orders not being fulfilled on a timely basis because things are not available and you have received the order. You have acknowledged the order. How are you going to honor it? One is with C. Okay, let's go to number two. What's the number two? Telephone orders, you record them initially on paper, then on the proper form. What could be the result of this? Yes, there could be mistakes. Risk of incorrect orders being dispatched. You might commit mistakes. Well done. Let's go to number three. Order forms are not sequentially numbered. If they are not sequentially numbered, a particular order may go missing and you won't be able to identify the unfulfilled orders. What about the fourth? The online ordering system allows customer to exceed their credit limit. As a result, the recoverability of debt will be a problem for you. Irrecoverable debts will be on the higher side. Let's go to the question 83. Which two of the following are appropriate recommendation to address the credit limit system deficiency? What was the credit limit deficiency? What's the credit limit deficiency? When the customers place orders online, they are allowed to exceed their credit limit. That's not good. That's not good. What should be the recommendation? You have got 60 seconds. Choose the correct option. Oh, you have to choose two. Which two of the following are appropriate recommendations? Credit limit should be reviewed by a responsible official. Not only that, it should be the review should perform on a regular basis. Not only that, more value addition. If there is any need of amendment, they should be amended as appropriate. So I'm going with the first statement. First is the correct answer. Majority of you have chosen first as the correct answer. Well done. Sales order clerk should be allowed to use discretion. Not at all. Sales order clerk is not sufficiently senior. The online ordering system should allow 5% limit, 5% access. No. If there's a policy, that has to be followed. Last, orders which would cause a customer to exceed their credit limit should be sent for a review or for approval. Yes. Can we create exceptions? Yes, we can. But those exceptions need approval from the most senior person. So 1 and 4, fantastic. Question number 84. Which of the following recommendations, plural, should be made to address deficiency number 2 and 3? What was the deficiency 2 and 3? Orders are not directly recorded and order forms are not sequentially numbered. So they are interconnected. we have to come up with recommendations for the deficiency 2 and 3. You have got 60 seconds. Order clerk should have online access to view real-time inventory quantities at the time of ordering. That has got nothing to do with those two deficiencies. So option number 1 is not a correct option. If option number 1 is not a correct option, option A cannot be your answer. Option number D cannot be your answer. See, what's the deficiency at 2 and 3? Deficiency number 2 and 3 are, they are not recorded directly on the paper and they are not sequentially numbered. The recommendation number 1 has got to do with the deficiency number 1. So deficiency number 1, the recommendation number 1 has got to do with deficiency 1. First is not the correct answer. Order form should be sequentially pre-numbered and a regular sequence check should be performed. Yes, this recommendation addresses this deficiency number 3. So yes, option number 2 is the correct answer. Now all orders should be entered directly into the ordering system. Yes, rather than initially writing on a paper and then on the system, why not directly onto the system? So 2 and 3 is your answer. What about 4th? Customers should be instructed not to place orders by telephone. No, why would you do that? Why would you discourage customers? So 4th is not sensible answer. So the correct answer is 2 and 3. That makes option B is your correct answer. Is this clear? C is not correct answer because C incorporates 4th. And 4th statement, Abdul Ahad says that you are supposed to ask your customer not to place orders on phone. Why would you do that? B is your answer, 2 and 3. Last question. Which of the following statements is true in respect of the review findings? The findings will be communicated to the shareholders. Not at all. The recommendations will need to be actioned before the external audit commences. The actions need to be taken by the management. You can't do anything about it. The findings should be reported directly to the board of directors rather than the finance director. Yes, if you have performed internal control systems, the review of internal control system, and you found any weaknesses in the system, you got to report those findings to the audit committee, to the board of directors, not to the finance director, because the mistakes which you have realized, they need to be shared with the non-executive directors. So statement number 3 is the correct answer. Is this clear? Okay, everyone is saying clear. Sonam, which one should I repeat? Why is not 4th one is correct? Okay, which 4th is not correct? The findings should be discussed with the external auditor before being communicated to the finance director. You are the internal auditor, so you found few mistakes. What's your job? Your job is that the company should improve those controls. You are not supposed to tell everything initially to the external auditor. You might want to make sure that management improves their systems. And still, if there are certain deficiencies, when you are going to share with external auditor afterwards, but there is a possibility management might want to improve on it. So this is not correct, 4th one. Okay, Ali Akbar is saying, please explain a little about narrative notes and questionnaires. Narrative notes is the written description of the system, how the system operates, who does the authorization, who reviews it, what controls are in place. All this will be written in sentences. That is called narrative notes. Whereas internal control questionnaires or the questionnaires are divided into 2 categories: internal control questionnaires and internal control evaluation questionnaires. Internal control questionnaire is a ready-made list of controls which I'm going to put in front of the client, and I'm going to say which controls are implemented by you. Please please let me know. An internal control evaluation questionnaire means that you are going to ask the management that this is a risk, this is a potential problem. What controls do you have in place? Tell me. Sir, deficiency can be told to executive director. See, I'm not going to express their deficiencies to the executive director or the finance director straight away. I would like to communicate those deficiencies with the non-executive directors first. Why? Because non-executive directors are independent, whereas those deficiencies have got to do with the executive director. If I'm going to tell those deficiencies straight away to the finance director or executive directors, they are the culprits. Is this clear to everyone? Okay. Any questions? Okay, before we sign off for today, let me show you important questions from yesterday. I told you that with respect to risk with ratios, we did question called Harlem, and I recommended 2 more questions with ratios, Centipede and Darjeeling. I don't recommend and I don't force and I don't advise that you need to attend all those old webinars. You should be comfortable with this question and you should try those questions by yourself. Okay. And without ratios, we did the question called BlackBerry company, and I recommended 2 more questions. So overall, that makes 6 questions on risk. Now today, what about controls? We did 2 very tricky questions, very difficult questions, I would say. Raspberry from June 18, and Frisia company from June 19. So fairly recent past paper questions. If you want to attend more questions, Amberjack is available in March webinar. It's a December 19 past paper question. Comet Publishing and Caterpillar is available in June webinar. Again, you should try those questions by yourself. You don't have to attend those webinars. Now 3 more questions I've recommended. A question called Lemon Quartz. It's a question on inventory system. It's available in your Kaplan kit. Camuli, a September-December 18 question available on your Kaplan kit. And there is a question called bonsai trading on non-current asset, and this question is available on, I don't think so it's available on ACCA website, but if you're going to Google it, you will find it. It's a very easy question, but it's a unique question. That is why I've recommended. Overall, these are 8 questions. So 8 plus the 6, now we are 14. I'm not going to recommend more than 30 questions. I'm not going to exceed 30 questions. 6 plus 8, 14. I will add 10, 12 questions from substantive procedures. That makes 24, 25. 1 question from ethics, 1 question from corporate governance, 1 question from internal audit. That's it, less than 30. Is this clear? Ushna is saying, can I get the link for yesterday's webinar? If you are in the group, you will get the link. Are you going to share this list, please? Okay, I will share in the group after a while, or I might share this list tomorrow once I've made this list complete, because I'm still working on this sheet. I will share, no problem. Oh, most welcome, welcome Sarosh, Navneet, you are most welcome. Thank you everyone. Guys, tomorrow is the backbone of the audit and assurance syllabus, which is called substantive procedures. So you are not supposed to miss tomorrow or day after tomorrow. In fact, you are not supposed to miss anything, because I will be working on substantive procedures tomorrow. I'll be working on substantive procedures day after tomorrow, and the 5th day will cover the 30-40% marks. That is the minor areas. So thank you very much. See you tomorrow, same time. And I really hope so, that before tomorrow's class, you are going to type these 2 questions and learn them. What 2 questions? The Raspberry and the Frisia. Thank you very much. Thank you.